moment.
गुनीत अभी पॉज कर दिए आप.
ओके मैम.
Guneet, have you sent message of?
Yes ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I did it.
Beta, I see about 40 participants. Not 40, sorry, 48. 48, yeah. So I think it's time to start. Whoever has to join in will filter in, because then we have to also have the time, in shape, in order. Okay.
Ma'am, should I start the recording?
I'm just also waiting for principal, ma'am.
Okay ma'am.
Just give me maybe a minute or so. Has ma'am joined in? Can you see? Has principal ma'am joined in?
I just check once.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, not yet.
Krishna, I'm my apologies. If it's okay with you, can we wait 2 minutes, please?
Yeah,
If you don't mind.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Most
thank
certainly.
you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I think we'll begin. Perhaps ma'am will join in later. Uh, is it all right? Shall I start? Is it okay? Everything is in order?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this poster can be removed for the moment so that, this is not a distraction. Later, we'll bring it on. Would you just remove the
Start
poster for the
recording?
time being, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay. Done? Okay. All right. And now I think whoever had to join in has joined, and we can't wait anymore. So sorry, friends. We're going to begin now. Good afternoon. On behalf of ASMITA, the WDC team of Mata Sundari College, I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you who've come here, who've joined us for our workshop, which is titled Delineating Gender in Policymaking, Industry, and Leadership in Contemporary India, Making Women Visible. Now, India's growth story has been phenomenal, but paradoxical too. We may be heading towards being the fifth largest economy in the world, but in the Human Development Index ratio, we are far behind even the sub-Saharan African region. And gender equality lies at the heart of the paradox. The minuscule presence of women, both in the manufacturing sector and the corporate sector, and their predominance in the unorganized world of work and labor is just too stark to ignore. India is a developing market with very few women entrepreneurs. How does gender come into play when starting a business? Is it the perception that sways the investor? Is it the ecosystem? Are you discounted because you're a woman or you may belong to a different sexual orientation? Now, where does this leave us? Should we be risk averse or risk seeking individuals? Or are these binaries too restricting? I think I will definitely ask Professor Krishna later to address these issues. The same narrative gets replicated in the domain of leadership and policy making. Since Sri Lanka elected its first female prime minister in 1960, I think Asia has come a long way. Even so to speak, when we think of India, India has had top positions in power being occupied by women. Even at the grassroots, we find them making important decisions. But the irony is being in power, does it mean having to deal with not only the scrutiny of your policies, but also your personality and appearance? Smashing the glass ceiling and pursuing the agenda of women's health, equality, and empowerment is a tall order. How long would it be before a large number of women can get onto the negotiating table and be a part of the system, the structure, the process, and build bridges between communities and various orientations in India? Now, coming to think of it, gender is a fluid category and can be reshaped through persistent questioning and participative action. The purpose of this workshop is to trigger the thoughts, is to engage the young minds that have joined us today, and to initiate a dialogue between the community of academics and policymakers on the one hand, and student audience on the other. On that note, I think I would like to formally welcome our IQAC member, Dr. Lukesh has joined us. Thank you so much for joining. I'm also waiting for Principal Ma'am to join, but in case she hasn't, then we will have to proceed with our program. Before I proceed further, I would like to emphasize that at the end of this program, towards late afternoon, there would be a number of MCQs, there would be student presentations, and there would be a couple of case studies also. Those students who attempt the MCQs and score 50% will qualify for the e-certificates. So that particular parameter, please keep in mind. I'm so happy that we have students from IP College here with us, and we welcome you girls. I'm also happy that we have faculty from various disciplines who've joined us. This is a pertinent theme, and I'm sure it's going to be a very stimulating and engaging experience, which Professor Krishna is going to share with us. But before I do so, I would like to introduce Professor Krishna Menon to all of you. You know, Professor Krishna and I have been together during the Lady Shri Ram days. And I have known Professor Krishna Menon to be engaging in very many intellectual co-curricular activities all along. And I'm so happy that I have been with her, learned a lot, have been inspired by her during my years spent with her. Drive, determination, discipline, all rolled into one. Professor Krishna Menon has impeccable academic credentials. She is currently Professor Gender Studies at Ambedkar University and former Dean, School of Human Studies. She was formerly Associate Professor at Lady Shri Ram for over a decade, for over 2.5 decades, from 1990 to 2016. She has been the co-editor-in-chief International Feminist Journal of Politics. Ma'am has also been the editor, special issue on gender in higher education, Wiscom's Peace Prints. Professor Krishna Menon has been bestowed with prestigious awards at the national and international level. She got the Teacher of Distinction Award from Delhi University, and in 2009, I very proudly would like to compliment ma'am on that. She also got Wiscom's Sahas Pragya Award for contribution to gender knowledge and higher education. Besides, she has numerous publications to her credit, the most recent one being on Unbearable Weight, Women and the Shaping of Political Subjects Through the Politics of Corporeality, Journal of International Women's Studies. Ma'am has also authored and edited many books, and these are all feathers in her cap. She has also been a resource person at both national and international workshops. Now, before I actually call a halt, I would like to share a personal detail of Professor Krishna Menon. Krishna, may I, like I fondly like to call you. Krishna has been a trained Bharatnatyam and Odissi dancer. For over 2 decades, she's had stage experience also in trained Carnatic music. I think we have a very versatile personality with us today. And keeping in mind her strong academic credentials, I'm sure she's going to engage us in a very stimulating talk. Over to you, Professor Krishna. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Madhuri Sukhija, and good afternoon to all students and faculty here. Dr. Gupta from IQAC, good afternoon. Professor Harpreet Kaur is your principal, and I'm sure she's a lady of great vision, and I'm sure she'll be able to join soon. I see Radhika here, and that's a familiar face. I thought I knew nobody in Madhuri's college, but it's nice to see her. Radhika has been a very important person in the school that I was heading at Ambedkar University, because she has been an examiner for various MPhil dissertations that she has taken great care to read and engage with, demonstrating her commitment to true scholarship. So Radhika, from a different forum, thank you once again. About Madhuri, what do I say? Her name says it all. She's sweet and she's scholarly. So she's a combination of these two things. And I have known her for a very long time. And I came here to your college today online, although it is only because Madhuri extended a very, very special invitation. And it's very difficult to say no to Madhuri. Those of you who work with her, I'm sure you realize that she has a charm and a magic that is essentially her own. So thank you, everybody. And students, thank you very much for sacrificing your lunchtime and being here, the lure of the certificate and the MCQs. But student life is like that, you know, so don't worry. There will be a time when you won't have to do all of this, but these 3-4 years in your life will be like this. So it doesn't matter. So as Madhuri was sort of, you know, it's mandatory in such events to read out the CV of the guest, and she had to do it. So thank you very much for doing that, Madhuri. But, you know, from there, I'd like to take off from that CV that you were reading out. These are things that I haven't done on my own. And in that lies the central point that I will wish to make today about feminist ideas of leadership. Whatever we are, whoever we become in our lives, whatever professional and official achievements and honors come our way, remember, we are beholden, and there is a whole host of people who have helped us become the person that we are. None of us is complete in ourselves. If I write a paper, Madhuri just mentioned my latest publication, I'm able to do that because there are many men and women who are supporting me in that journey. You know, the person who keeps house for me, the person who cooks, the person who drives me around, the people in my library who keep the book out for me, my colleagues who stimulate me by asking questions, and of course, a long list of people, including my family and friends, who have gone into who I am. So for me to claim that this is all because of my own individual soul qualities and merits would not be a feminist thing at all. So that's really the backdrop from where we will engage with some ideas. You know, Madhuri gave me that very well put together concept note, but I'm not, obviously it's not possible for me to touch upon every aspect in the concept note, but the idea of leadership really appealed to me. And one of the themes that I have been working on and thinking about especially is leadership within academic institutions, because that's something that really interests me. But I'm not going to focus on that in today's conversation with you. I'll talk generally about feminist ideas on leadership. So I'll share my screen, and I hope technology doesn't ditch me. And you're free to ask me whenever you feel. Are you able to see?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my presentation, as you can see, is titled Feminist Imagination of Leadership. It's always a work in progress. I think that's very important for us to understand. You know, the thought that this is a leader, complete and fully formed, that's not a feminist idea. The feminist idea is that all of us are leaders, and we are all therefore a work in progress. And why do we think like that? Because feminist ideas of leadership really come from the 3 words that I have used. It's based on solidarity. It has a purpose. What are you a leader for? What is the purpose of having this, you know, position? It's for democratic change and transformation. So unless you are using your leadership abilities for that, you're really not a leader as far as the feminist vantage point is concerned, because you could be a leader and use it for oppression and repressive state practices. Then I'm afraid from the feminist point of view, you're not a leader. In recent times, in the last 3 years, there have been numerous instances of women taking positions of leadership. And I'm using the simple binary of men and women here to make matters easier, but I am completely cognizant of the fact that there is no one category called women, there is no one category called men. And of course, I acknowledge and understand that there are other genders which don't find representation in this presentation, where my focus really is on feminist ideas. So if you look at the pictures, there are 3 pictures here. Can I ask you to tell me, any student here, ये कौन है, ये महिलाएं, ये जो ट्रैक्टर पे चढ़ी हुई हैं, who are they? Any idea?
Come on, girls. I think you have a fair idea. You must respond.
कहाँ थी ये? कौन है? कुछ तो पता होगा?
Farmers protest में
Farmers protest में थी ये, है ना? And these are women. And as you can see, women were an extremely important part of the movement, although it took the media a very long time to actually acknowledge the presence, involvement, and participation of women, and the fact that they were taking decisions on their own. So it's for you and me actually to recover the role of women in that farmers protest. अच्छा, फिर ये बताओ कौन है? ये वाली जो इमेज है जिसमें one woman is cutting her hair. Can you see? She's cutting her ponytail.
the hijab case that has recently happened in Iran. The protest was against that case.
Yes, so it's not just a case, Anagha. As you know, one young girl was killed, and there is an eruption of protests against that. So she is a leader from the feminist point of view. So I don't know her name. Yeah, and there are many women like her. They are really, from the feminist understanding, this solidarity of Iranian women, and now we also need to extend our solidarity to them. They represent what feminist leadership is about. And it is for a purpose. You remember I said that the purpose is democratic change and transformation. Therefore, they are really leaders in my understanding. Then, who is this in the third image? I'll go back. Who is that? Can you see? Any idea? Not too many people may know her. She's a 22-year-old young girl, Ala Saleh, from Sudan. 2019, there was a big uprising in Sudan against the oppressive government, and she was one of the strongest leaders of that movement. But look at her, she's not on her own. Yeah, she's an engineering student. She's surrounded by other women and men, and she's taking their energy. And you can see that from the photograph. This photo became an iconic photo of the Sudanese anti-government movement, actually. So to an extent, I think these 3 pictures show us the importance of solidarity, the purpose of leadership. I think that's really important from the feminist point of view. What's the point of me being a leader if I'm not able to bring about democratic change and transformation with that leadership within me? And no leader actually exists on their own. So we'll come to that. So why am I not able to change the slide? Yeah. Okay. So it's generally thought that, what is there? Why should Madhuri call Krishna for 1 hour to talk about leadership? It's so self-evident. जो सबसे strong, सबसे powerful है, वो leader है. इसमें explanation की क्या जरूरत है? It is self-evident. But actually, from where I stand, from where I see the world, इतना कोई self-evident नहीं है. इसको थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में सोचना ही पड़ेगा. So, can you see the 2 words in the banners? Empower and दूसरा क्या है? I can't see it actually. बताओ, what is the other one? Empower and
encourage.
Yeah. So I can't see because, the banner is coming. So I'm not able to see actually. I'll have to change the setting. So empower whom and encourage whom? A real leader is somebody who encourages and empowers the people with whom he or she or they are working. ये बहुत जरूरी है leadership के लिए from the feminist point of view. Feminist leader और feminist leadership की सबसे important और सबसे अहम खासियत यही है that the leader is able to motivate, encourage, empower. ये नहीं कि I am the leader and only I can be the leader. किसी और में तो ये कोई qualities है ही नहीं, तो they can never be the leader. That's not the feminist perspective. Feminist perspective is कि सबके अंदर leader छुपा है and it's my job as the leader to bring it out. I have to somehow help. That is why empower. I need to work towards sharing my power and not keep all the power with me and say that I am the only person, I'll keep all the power. No, the belief that everyone around me, because I said in my first slide, it's about solidarity. So it is working together and encourage. The language, the body language, the verbal language, the way you interact with people when you become a leader, it should be encouraging. It should not be that, you know, somebody does something for you and brings it and you say, nahi, ye to sab galat hai. That's not a feminist leadership tactic at all. Instead, you should say, ye theek hai, lekin hum isko is tarah se bhi shayad kar sakte hain. Shall we talk about it? That becomes a feminist leadership tactic or strategy. Yeah. Now, you look at this joke on top. Yeah, there is a joke often that कितने feminist लगेंगे आपको एक bulb change करने में? कम से कम 10. Yeah, क्यों? Because again, it is showing that feminist work is always किसी भी काम को करने के लिए from the feminist point of view, it's not just one person who does it. देश को बनाने का काम सिर्फ एक व्यक्ति का नहीं है या एक कोई ताजमहल बनाने का काम सिर्फ एक व्यक्ति का नहीं है. It's a group of people and conventional ideas of leadership do not acknowledge that solidarity. So the joke is that you need one feminist to change the bulb, 2 to write about the process, somebody to make a committee that would invite opinions, and others to campaign and finally arrive at a collective decision. I hope you see the important clues here. Yeah, it is a group work. People are working together. And there is a campaign to arrive at a collective decision. Decisions are taken collectively and not unilaterally. Now, usually you will see in, you will see in popular imagination and even in the film industry. So because you are young and you must be consuming a lot of media, you would see that usually the leader is a lone person. Yeah, in Hollywood, it is always the white man. So Superman, Batman, Iron Man, Ant-Man, Waterman, Aquaman, you know, all the men. Yeah, so they're all individuals and they are able to destroy the enemy and save America, save the world, but they do it on their own. However, today, because of a lot of feminist and other, Black groups and others criticizing, people of color criticizing, you can see, I don't know if all of you have watched it on Netflix, you can watch Ms. Marvel. Yeah, she's a young girl, Pakistani American, who has these superpowers, but she's not like Superman. She needs others to work with her. So it's a very interesting feminist take on the idea of the savior, really. On top, you can see the, very interesting Malayalam film that's again available on Netflix, Minnal Murli, where you can see that he is a superhero, but he's a superhero full of vulnerabilities. So he's a leader, he's a savior, but he's, there's a kind of hichak hai unme. Like he's not like absolutely sure that मैं तो सभी enemies को defeat कर दूंगा. From the 1990s, you find, for instance, girls' cartoons, yeah, changing the idea of women's role in life. And these 3 Powerpuff Girls are often used by feminists as an interesting example of solidarity and group work. Blossom, Buttercup, and what's the third one's name? Anybody who has watched Powerpuff Girls would know. I can't remember the third girl's name, whatever her name was. So
Bubbles.
the 3 Bubbles, that's right. Thank you. So the 3 of them worked as a group always, and they took collective decisions. I think that model of leadership is what I'm trying to sort of invite your attention to. Usually you'll find a lot of literature about leadership in the management and organizational theory kind of thing, but I'm not going to go into that, because the usual assumption is that the leader is always one individual, and of course it's a man, and it is the leader takes the decisions, and the leader provides the vision and motivates others to follow. Sometimes we hear that, there can be a feminine style of leadership. I'm very uncomfortable with that, because feminine is not the same as feminist, really, because feminine means it can only be a woman, anatomically woman, and, it's quite essentialized. Yeah, so soft and gentle and caring and keeps her office very beautiful. A kind of reinforcement of the stereotype. But we'll come to what is a feminist idea of leadership. Feminists begin to think of leadership from the vantage point of power. I heard Madhuri say this, and that really gladdened my heart, because finally, feminist ideas of leadership are very closely linked with ideas of power. And feminists have noticed that one way in which classical ideas of leadership operate is by keeping power, authority and decision making a closed project. सिर्फ एक व्यक्ति के पास वो होता है, power, authority, there's no sharing. Whereas feminists are actually looking for ways in which you can open it up and you can share the power, share authority, share decision making activities. So feminist ideas of leadership, therefore, are acutely aware of the way power operates. So, for instance, if you become a very senior bureaucrat, you should be extremely aware of the power that you have, and you should be extremely aware of how you got this power, what were the socio-economic and cultural reasons that made you take the exam, get an education, be mindful of your power. That brings a kind of awareness, and dare I use an old-fashioned word, humility, which then forces you to look at other people and their situations not as, oh, she's so incompetent, oh, she's so inefficient, but you'll begin to place people in a network of social and political and economic relationships, and thus be willing to, as I said, those two words, encourage and empower. Encourage others also to take decision-making roles. Encourage others to share authority. Encourage others to share power, and thereby empower them as well. Therefore, feminist ideas of leadership firmly believe that leadership, whether you're a feminist or not, the fact is they believe that leadership is socially created. And it's not something which exists naturally in human beings as an individual trait, but it is something that is socially created. And what that means, if anything is socially created, then it means it is imprinted by power hierarchies in society. सामाजिक का मतलब है that power is reflected. Samajik vyavastha is a reflection of power in society. So if something is samajically created and not naturally created, then it means power reflects in that arrangement. So feminists do believe that leadership is mystified as something that is available only to some people. कुछ लोग हैं जो लीडर पैदा हो जाते हैं, they are like great people, they are leaders. But feminists, one of the things that the feminist project on leadership tries to do is to demystify this idea and say that आपको लगता है मैं लीडर हूँ, तो प्लीज सुनो मेरी क्या डिफिकल्टीज है, मेरी वल्नरेबिलिटीज क्या हैं, मैं कैसे बनी, मुझे पहले कुछ नहीं आता था, फिर मुझे इन्होंने ये बताया, उन्होंने ये बताया. To show the process of your becoming a leader is the demystification. The other approach is to show yourself as मैं तो पैदा ही ऐसे हुई थी, leader. Yeah, and sort of, make it seem like a natural given. That makes it very difficult for others to join you, work with you, or even aspire to be like you. Others will think, oh, she was born like this. But when you say that, no, look, I wasn't born like this at all. There were many people, many experiences, many mistakes, many failures that have gone into the making of me today as a leader that you see in front of you today. So feminists do believe that leadership is a skill. And people have it in varying degrees, and it depends upon your life circumstances. Some people are encouraged to become leaders. So, children who go to certain kinds of schools have leadership camps, leadership training. They get elected as monitors, prefects, head girl. They're sent for exchange programs. All of this, therefore, instills in them the quality and ability of leadership. Parents are encouraging, teachers, family. There are others who never get these opportunities and they never become leaders. So iska matlab ye nahi hai that they don't have the ability. What it means is that, you remember I said it's socially created. So jis tarah ki samajik vyavastha hai, usme wherever individuals are placed, it depends upon that. So the access to schools that you have, the kind of social and economic situation that you are in, all of these determine the kind of opportunities, the kind of abilities that you're able to develop for yourself. So it's not natural. That's the point that feminists would make. Feminists contend that to do anything big, one needs many people to come together with a common goal or objective. So if I want to make my university great, because I'm a university teacher. So that's what I would want. I can't do it on my own. If I think that, oh, I'm so gifted and such a great scholar and I'll make my university great, not going to happen. It can happen only if I am able to bring together a huge pool of talent and experience, many of whom may not agree with me. They are going to criticize me. There will be dissent, but it is through that, but the common objective is common, to make my university great. So we come together with that objective, and then we are able to translate that goal into reality. So to make people a part of the process, that's very, very important as far as feminist leadership is concerned, not just the product. Yeah. So for instance, to give you an example, let us say you have your college day. One approach is that I do everything and then all of you are invited. Yeah. So you see the product. Another is that from the first step onwards, खाना क्या होगा, कैसे डेकोर होगा, who will be called, क्या performances होंगे, कैसे arrangement. Everybody is involved in the process. You automatically begin to work together towards a common objective, and you are demystifying leadership. It doesn't look like one person managed this whole show, because it doesn't work like that. No one person can do it. It's the feminist understanding. I realize that this is the feminist understanding. There are many other ways of understanding leadership. So you don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but this is a perspective to share the results with everyone involved. So whatever you have done, it would be nice when you're working in a team to tell everybody that this is what we did, this is how it was, these were some of the successes, these were some of the challenges, this is where we have failed, and this is how, and can you now let's talk about how do we take it further. That's how you build a team and create solidarity. Remember, the goal is democratic transformation. How do you make my university, how do I make my university more democratic? That should always be my goal. And for that, I do all of this. The aim of feminist leadership is to create self-esteem of all the members and not to strip off people's self-esteem by showing them how terrible they are. That's not feminist leadership. Oh, you're so inefficient. You didn't do this properly. You don't have any color sense. You didn't do the decor properly. Whatever. In college, these must be the things that bother us a lot of times. It is to build the self-esteem, to build people, not to destroy people. But building, so a good leader would be that person who's able to bring together a team, have a common objective, share results, be a part of the process, and in the working, create people's self-esteem, make people feel valued and worthy. of being that individual that they are, and generate decision-making capacity in everybody. That's really important from the feminist point of view, and not a situation where people are just pulverized. If the leader is not there, oh, we can't take this decision, leader will come, then we will decide. So if you see the picture on your slide, that's Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, and all the ministers in her cabinet. Yeah. So often journalists would say things like, oh, she was the only man in her cabinet, and it was supposed to be a compliment to her. I think it's disgusting, because what it really is implying is that all the others were ineffective. They could, because only men take decisions, yeah, according to conventional wisdom. So only she took decisions. None of the others she shared power with. So yes, she was a woman. Madhuri talked about the fact that with what was her name? Srimavu Bandaranaike becoming the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, things began to change in Asia. Yes, indeed, they did. But, anatomically, being a woman is different from being a feminist leader. And that's what we see in her case, actually. So feminist leadership sees leadership as a means and not an end in itself. I'm here not to become the leader or not to become the whatever of the CEO or whatever. What am I here for? I'm here for solidarity, for democratic transformation, and building a team of people who have self-esteem, decision-making abilities, empower and encourage them to find the leaders in themselves. That is why feminist groups and NGOs and civil society organizations and feminist sensitization programs always think about leadership as a skill that can be acquired, not something that you are either born with or you don't have it. Therefore, there are feminist manuals on leadership, books. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, if you do all of these things, you can train yourself to become a leader. So I'll talk about some of the elements of these manuals. The first and foremost is self-awareness. To be a feminist leader, you have to begin by being acutely aware of your own self. And this awareness is not a narcissistic awareness, not that making at you and I'm so, not that kind of a self-awareness, but an awareness which helps you place yourself in the larger network of society, community. Where am I coming from? What was my community's history? What were some of the privileges that I had, which have made me the person I am? What were the communities that suffered due to my community's privileges? It is time to now undo that injustice. This kind of awareness is very crucial. Self-care and caring for others. There is no feminism without the element of care. You have to be able to put yourself in another person's shoes and think and understand what that person might be feeling and care for that person. Similarly, care for yourself. Dismantling bias. ये बहुत जरूरी है. Not to have these prejudices. हमको सब में होता है prejudice because we are part of a social structure. But इसको हम कैसे overcome करें? That's very important, and that's possible only through conversation. बातचीत से ही हो सकता है. Inclusion, that's very important again. To include as many people in these processes as is possible. Share power, I've already told you. Responsible and transparent use of power. इसीलिए जैसे वो जो light bulb का example मैंने दिया, उसमें I said that you need a committee, you need you need to take collective decisions. What that means is you have to show to the people how you used your power. You can't simply say, "Bas ma'am ne bol diya." That's not the way it is. You will have to demonstrate the use of power. I have this power, therefore I have used this, so on and so forth. Accountable collaboration. I'm sure you understand what that means. एकजुट होकर काम करना, collaborate. लेकिन ऐसे नहीं that only the leader decides कि एकजुट कैसे बनेंगे, एकता कैसे लाएंगे. Everybody will have a role to play in deciding कि ये समूह या ये community कैसे बनाई जाएगी. Feedback बहुत जरूरी है. पूरे ग्रुप में लीडर को भी feedback देना चाहिए and leader should give feedback to the people who are working, but it should be respectful. जैसे मैंने आपको काफी बार अभी बता दिया, not negative, not saying you are useless, you can't do this, you're stupid, you don't have an artistic sense, not that. Respectful feedback, appreciate the person for what he or she or they have done, and then say इसको थोड़ा और बेहतर कर सकते थे, maybe इसको हम अगली बार थोड़ा differently करेंगे. This is the way in which you should give feedback. Courage and zero tolerance to abuse of any kind of power. So if you ask me, do feminists worry about very few women being in positions of leadership? Yes, they do. Like Madhuri said, whether it is government, whether it is bureaucracy, corporate sector, women are by and large poorly represented. But simply having, so that's very important to increase the number of women. But simply having women in positions of leadership is not equal to feminist leadership. So what I think feminists are looking for is people who will lead differently, lead in a feminist way, in a transformative feminist way, not just more women. I mean, it's quite possible that you will have many women, but if the, those goals of empowering others, encouraging others to become leaders, etc., is not fulfilled, I don't think feminists would really describe that as feminist leadership. So feminist leadership would be inclusive and participatory. Get as many people to participate in the process of leadership by sharing power, authority, and decision making. And it'll try and build the capacity, skills, and ideas of as many individuals as is possible, because the process is as important as the product finally. So for the process, you have to involve as many people and their talents and capacities as is possible. I've already spoken about the need for redistribution of power. Thus, every occasion for leadership should be seen by feminists as an opportunity to work towards questioning the social order and transforming the social order. छोटे से छोटा जो भी occasion हो, मान लीजिए आपकी freshers party हो और रिपब्लिक डे सेलिब्रेशंस, मतलब एक छोटा सा माइक्रो इवेंट और एक मेगा इवेंट. इन ऑल दीज इवेंट्स द आइडिया रियली शुड बी टू ब्रिंग पीपल टुगेदर, to share power, share decision making, and question the order within which you are doing it and ask, ये ठीक है, is this reinforcing power कि हम इसको कुछ और तरीके से कर सकते हैं. So power remains a very important theme in our discussions about leadership. The leader has to be acutely conscious of their power. That's very important. But power is hidden. Sometimes you don't even realize that power is being used. Therefore, alertness, therefore, there is no room in the feminist idea of leadership to talk about a number one. There's no number one. Yeah, that's only for Akshay Kumar's films. There is no numbering. Everybody, it's horizontal. Power is horizontal. So it's not arranged vertically. So feminist leadership, hence, will strive to make the practice of leadership visible, democratic, legitimate, accountable. These are the key words, actually. And give others the agency to challenge, not keep it to yourself, but share it. So there are some examples here, those of you who may want to use these kind of examples, it will be useful for you. For instance, let us say that you want to send a mail to your person working with you. A threatening way of saying it would be, this has to be done by Monday. A non-threatening way would be, what do you think about getting this done by Monday? Yeah, I mean, these are just examples. Or say, I have an idea. Instead, maybe you could say, I'm just thinking loud here, which means that you're not sure, and possibly others might have other ideas. Now, I'm coming to the end of our discussion, but I leave you with three very important words, C words, the three C's of feminist ideas of leadership: collective, consultative, and cooperative. And it's about relationship building. When you are in a leadership position, if you cannot build relationships with the people that you are working with, then that's not a feminist project. If all your relationships are dissolving and collapsing, I'm afraid you've not really been a feminist leader. Feminist leader would be somebody, remember I talked about care, self-care and care for others, collective decision-making, consultative decision-making, cooperative decision-making will, in a way, automatically, I don't want to say automatic, but in a way automatically result in relationships that are built on care and lead to empowerment and transformation. Very, very important is the last bullet point that you see on this slide. It has to be critical and self-introspective about one's own leadership. See, that is one of the toughest things about being a feminist. You're pointing one finger at society, but you have to point the rest of the fingers at yourself and think about why do you have what you have? And that element of introspection is very important for a leader. That I'm sure you understand by now why that's the case. I want to give you an example of another imagination of leadership. So the women that you see here are from various resettlement and other areas of Delhi who were trained for a leadership program by the very interesting NGO called Azad Foundation that works with non-traditional livelihoods. And the livelihood that they focus on is driving skills for women. Yeah, and they have a company called Sakha through which they place their trained women drivers in cab services across the city. They operate in 3 cities now, Delhi, Kolkata, and Jaipur. The lady in red with short hair, Meenu Vadera, she was the one who, had long experience in similar kind of work, and she decided to work with all these women to set up Azad. Now here you see young girls from the communities that Azad works with who have been trained to become leaders. So as you can see, many of them actually are only class 8 and not beyond, education of class 8 and not beyond. But they have been able to become leaders in their communities because of the kind of leadership skills that were imparted to them. So once again, it actually establishes the fact that leadership is not something that you have to be born with. It's not something natural. It's not that there are some individuals in every society that are miraculously leaders and others who have to be followers. Instead, I think examples like this show us that it is possible to bring out the leadership potential in everyone. I'll end with a very interesting observation by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tse, who said that, he's talking about who are the best, leaders. As for the best leaders, the people do not notice their existence. If you really are the kind of leader that we have been talking about, people don't even notice their existence. The next best are the people who you are compelled to honor and praise. The next are the people, are the leaders whom people fear, जिनसे थोड़ा सा डर लगता है, those kind of leaders. And the worst are the leaders whom people hate. So on top, ironically, is a leader जिनके बारे में आपको वैसे आमतौर पे एहसास ही नहीं होता that this person is leading you, पता भी नहीं चलता, because the leader has shared power and authority and decision making to such an extent कि सबको लगता है कि हाँ मैं अपने इस एरिया में I am a leader. Now that is the best. The next is the kind of leader whom people honor and praise. हाँ बहुत अच्छे हैं, you praise. The next is the kind of leader whom people fear. And the last is the kind of leader whom people hate. Now, those of you who are interested in looking at toolkits for feminist leadership, how to become a leader, there is a wonderful toolkit called the ASMITA Toolkit for Feminist Leadership. If you Google search it, you'll get it, as also the African Feminist Charter. These are two very good examples of manuals that actually help you, and you can use it in your WDC, you can use it in your other, say, music society, wherever you are, you can use these toolkits. So I'm going to stop speaking and hope that I was able to get you to think a little bit, and I'd be happy to answer your questions, but it's 2 o'clock. So Madhuri, we'll keep it very, very short, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Krishna. I think this was a very stimulating and an engaging presentation. And I think it has laid the impact. We're going to see it through our question answers now. So this is a request, if you can hold on till 2:30, because we need half an hour with you. Just try. If not, then okay, then we'll.
That might be a bit difficult, Madhuri, but let's see. Let's first finish with this, the question answers, then we'll see.
Okay.
You know, actually, I have another work meeting. That's the reason.
Guys,
can you please hurry up? Yeah.
Guys, we'll be taking on questions. So if you have any, please share them in the chat box with us, or you can raise your hand. And may I also request Afaf to kindly summarize what ma'am has said so far?
Sure. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to thank ma'am to show very informative presentation here. So she talked about feminist imagination of leadership, the feminist ideas. So all of us are leaders. Feminist ideas are like all of us are leadership, solidarity. It has a purpose, and it is for democratic change and transformation. In recent times, women taking position in leadership. No one is categorized as women and men. Then she focused on feminist ideas. She showed how women played an important role in farmers' protests and many other protests. They represent solidarity. They show the purpose of leadership. Leadership is considered as a self-evident phenomenon that needs no explanation. She emphasized on empowerment and encouragement. For feminist leader, it is important to bring out empower and encourage. We should encourage, we should not just say it is wrong, rather we should try to correct it together. Then she talked about teamwork. Decisions are taken collectively. Sorry. Yeah, so then she talked about teamwork. Decisions are taken collectively, not unilaterally. Then she showed many examples of films and cartoons, how they work collectively to represent leadership. Leaders, for a feminist perspective, it is always thought that leaders is one individual, and that is a man. Then a feminist style of leadership, how she separates the meaning of feminine and feminist. Encourage others to share authority opinions. Leadership is socially created, and if anything is socially created, then it means it is power reflected. Feminist project to demystify the idea of people are born leader, because it discourages people to work with you and they feel demotivated. They believe that it is their skill and they acquire by their experiences. To do anything big, it can only be done with bringing pool of talents and skills. It can be done. It cannot be done alone, and it will be done huge. It will be done with huge amount of people with common set of goals. It never works like only one person is holding the power and making it work. She focused on democratic transformation. Then she talked about self-esteem. For a feminist perspective, build a self-esteem and not to destroy the self-esteem, to be a good leader. Make people feel being valued and important. Then she gave the example of Indira Gandhi, All the terms like self-esteem, encourage, empower are the tenets of feminist perspective to be a good leader. And that too is acquired. No one is born with it. And then denying prejudices, it can be solved through communication. And it is important to give feedback. Then, in her presentation, we saw that feminists do not worry more women becoming leader. Every occasion for leadership would be seen as feminist as an opportunity to work towards that different social order. Leaders should not worry about losing power. There is no number one. Power is distributed horizontally. Everyone is equal. There are three C's of feminist perspective.
Afaf, can you please wind up better? We won't have time for question answers. Can you just wind up now?
Sure, ma'am. So there are three important C's of feminist perspective she talked about. That is collective, consultative, and cooperative. And this is all we have learned through her like PPT and her presentation. And we are really thankful for you to be here and give us such an informational talk about this. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Excellent, Afaf. You could have done this presentation. Madhuri need not have called me. Very good. Very well summarized.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Brilliant work. Very good. Yeah, Madhuri, are there other questions? I saw questions in the chat box. Yeah.
Ma'am, I'll just read them out.
Krishna, I'm so happy. Your words are encouraging for our students. I think this is going to carry them a long way. And I'm so happy that you were happy with what she said.
So I see a question from Isha Singh. Ma'am, how pseudo-feminism is affecting feminist leadership? Isha or Esha, I don't know what pseudo-feminism is, what you mean by it. So therefore, I don't think I can answer this question. It has a certain, I don't want to use it in an irresponsible way. Often the term pseudo-feminism is used to discredit feminism itself, So I would be very cautious about using such pop terminologies. So maybe we need to talk a little bit more about it. Then I would be happy to answer this. The Indira Gandhi question, she had to take decisions by herself, and we think it was necessary given the nation's situation at the time. So if you think it was necessary, I respect your perspective on it, but I am afraid that it's not possible for me to actually agree, because all leaders who do not share power always say this: desh khatre mein hai, rashtra khatre mein hai, so sara power mujhe de do. So I would be quite weary. I think the desh would have been stronger if she or any leader for that matter shares power, empowers, brings more people, inclusive. This is one perspective. So I'm not quarreling with that. You have your perspective, but I find it a bit uncomfortable. So I don't agree, unfortunately, Khushi. Then Nancy. Ma'am, sometimes the caring nature of female leaders is looked out as their weakness. Do you agree? Not all female leaders are caring, and many men leaders are actually caring. Caring is something that all human beings can do, actually. Human life flourishes, blossoms, and survives because men, women, and other genders are caring. What happens is that care becomes solely the responsibility and activity of a certain gender. So it almost seems that gender is naturally more caring. I don't think any gender is more caring. Can you say that your fathers are not caring, or that your brothers or friends? Men are also capable of great love and affection and care. Imagine our lives without the men in it, the men we love and the men who have loved us and cared for us and continue to care for us. So I think care exists, So, but yes, I understand your question. You are trying to say that sometimes women are portrayed as being soft and gentle and incapable of hard decision making. You're very right. And it would depend upon the woman and the people around her. How do you turn this gentleness? Like Gandhi always was a gentle leader, right? But he was able to turn it into a political strategy and a political tool that he used. I think we should be able to do that. We should be actually happy to own up to the fact that we have been socialized into caregiving. I mean, we like caring. I don't feel awkward or embarrassed to say that I enjoy caring for the people I love. And I'd like to be able to care for many more people, but it's not possible. But at least my students, my colleagues, the people who work in my university, my neighbors, my family, I really do care for all these people and I'd like to do things for them. I enjoy caring. And I don't think it's womanly. We should turn it around and say, men also care. You know, men are extremely caring. It's not that, but unfortunately the society, the way patriarchy structures itself, men are discouraged from developing that aspect of their personality, and women are compelled to develop only that aspect of their personality. That's the problem. I don't think the problem is with caring. How else would human beings have survived, you know? So that's my slightly.
Can I just chip in here,
Sure.
Professor Krishna? Yeah, this is just an observation of mine. If you see the current New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, who has been, I think she has been facing a lot of wrath, not only because of the motherly instinct, but also she's been into private, a little bit of the parting bit. This is a little sad, I think, that has come about. On the other hand, we have Helen Clark, also, who has been the New Zealand Prime Minister for about 3 occasions consecutively.
Yeah.
So I think somewhere they become the butt of criticism, and this is sad. I mean, I really don't know if we can take it along, in such a noble way. Women do end up facing all that criticism.
Certainly. So, Madhuri, for instance, students like yours and younger, we need to reach out to them and ask them to get in touch with their caring selves. A world without care and compassion will be a miserable and dangerous world to live in. So I think as feminists, we need to work towards a world where care becomes the credo of life, where we care for the planet, actually, in the context that we are living in today of climate wars. Because we've not cared for the planet itself is now facing destruction and extinction of the kind that has never been the case before. So a much larger understanding of care is what I am asking for. But you are absolutely right. It's a way of discrediting women leaders very easily. Anagha, ma'am, what are your views on women getting a permanent post in defense sector? Well, Anagha, it depends upon where you stand. So there are broadly 2 feminist positions on this, broadly. One that says that all aspects of life should be open to all genders. Yeah, so from that position, I think it's good to have women in the defense forces. But then there's another position which says that militarism and patriarchy are joined at the hip, actually. So the military establishment itself is based on patriarchal principles of hierarchy, deference, order, control, discipline, regulation, surveillance, etc., etc. The existence of the army, in a way, is a nod in the direction of acknowledging principles of patriarchy, power, and control. So from this perspective, it's not something which feminists should be really hoping to join. Rather, they should really work towards a world where the military is perhaps not needed. Imagine a world where you don't need the military. Feminism is about that imagination. You've got to imagine. You can't begin by saying, oh, that's not possible. Then Beatles would not have written their song. Why a narrow definition of gender? Bhavya, what do you really mean by this? If you could explain, I shall answer.
Ma'am, what I really mean is आज के हम टाइम में देखते हैं कि यदि जेंडर की बात आई तो महिला और पुरुष दूसरे जेंडर्स को हम क्यों रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करते, भारतीय समाज क्यों रिकॉग्नाइज करने के लिए तैयार नहीं है? और आज के यस मैम
सॉरी भव्या, ऐसा है भारतीय समाज में अगर आप इतिहास पढ़ें और साहित्य पढ़ें और संगीत देखें सुने तो वी हैव ऑलवेज बीन ओपन माइंडेड टू multiple genders and sexuality and sexual experiences. But modernity brings with it a certain understanding of binary sexes and binary genders. But today, things are changing. You can see, for example, very recently, the Madras High Court has actually asked medical college, the Tamil Nadu medical colleges, to revise their textbooks, anatomy textbooks and pathology textbooks, and be very sensitive to the multiplicity of genders that exist, especially in anatomy towards intersex children. फिर आपको पता है कि 377 हटा दिया गया है, तो इस तरह से परिवर्तन जरूर आ रहे हैं भव्या, बट चेंज कम्स ओनली व्हेन पीपल पुश. अपने आप से कोई सरकार चेंज नहीं लाएगी. इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन समाज कितना किसी चेंज को चाहता है. खूब और इतना आसान नहीं है. It's not like you call up the government and say, okay, please can you change this law? They're not going to change it. You will have to come out on the streets, protest, organize, ये वो सालों साल लग जाते हैं, तब जाकर परिवर्तन होता है, क्योंकि it is about power.
I just want to chip in. Khushi, can you just better request those girls to make their PPTs? Ma'am has to leave in 5-6 minutes,
ma'am.
and they have worked hard. I want ma'am to respond to them.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we have Tripti Sharma and Bhavya with us who have prepared small presentations, and we would like you to please give your feedback on them.
Certainly. I look forward to it.
Tripti, will you begin, please?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone, respected guest, principal ma'am, teachers, and all my dear friends. I am Tripti Sharma, a student of 3rd year pursuing Pol Science Honours and also a member of WDC team. Gendering the politics, lack of women's participation in politics. So I will be sharing the screen. I'm not able to share.
just a second.
Okay.
Tripti, please try again.
Okay. Is it visible?
Can we request Bhavya in the meantime? Tripti, आप इतना देख लो बेटा, because मैम को 2:20 तक कुछ ऐसा कह रही थी, मैम जल्दी जाना भी है.
Yes, ma'am, sure. I'm trying.
Should I present? Okay.
Bhavya, you can.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
So, hello everyone, this is Bhavya. So, we will be discussing about a very small discussion about gender in public policy industry leadership with special emphasis on women and transgender. So, शुरुआत करते हैं ये जानने से कि जेंडर इक्वालिटी होता क्या है। जेंडर इक्वालिटी होता है कि यदि हर व्यक्ति को इक्वल राइट्स और इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज दी जाए इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ वंस जेंडर। यदि हम बात करें महिलाओं की तो महिलाएं दे आर मोस्ट अनरिप्रेजेंटेटेड इन दी पब्लिक पॉलिसी मेकिंग। 2019 की रिपोर्ट यदि हम देखें तो भारत की जो रैंक आई थी दैट वाज 149 आउट ऑफ दी 193 कंट्रीज। इंडिपेंडेंस तक आते आते महिलाएं देवर ओनली 14% रिप्रेजेंटेशन इन दी लोकसभा। यदि हम सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अंदर बात करें तो सिर्फ 7% महिलाओं का वर्कफोर्स है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट में, और लोकल बॉडीज में भी दे हैव अ वेरी मीगर रिप्रेजेंटेशन। 2019 के इलेक्शंस में सिर्फ 78% महिलाएं कैंडिडेट्स ही जीत पाई, जिसमें से आई वुड लाइक टू टेल कि 42% वुमेन कैंडिडेट्स बिलोंग टू द पॉलिटिकल फैमिली। हालांकि 73rd और 74th अमेंडमेंट पास हुए वुमेन रिप्रेजेंटेशन इन लोकल बॉडीज के अंदर, बट नागालैंड जैसी स्टेट ने अभी तक 73rd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट को इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया। महिलाएं दे फेस स्ट्रगल्स, जैसे पार्टीज आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन गिविंग पार्टी टिकट्स टू द वुमेन। हम यदि बात करें ब्यूरोक्रेसी की तो ब्यूरोक्रेसी भी हम देखते हैं कि अंडरमाइनिंग द अथॉरिटी ऑफ वुमेन सरपंच। हम एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं सुखिया बाई का। सुखिया बाई वो एक ट्राइबल दलित वुमेन सरपंच थी who self-immolated herself because of the harassment by the officials. महिलाएं यदि हम पॉलिटिक्स में देखें मेजरली दे आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द मेल लीडरशिप। राबड़ी देवी की यदि बात करें, शीला दीक्षित की बात करें, सोनिया गांधी की बात करें, तो दे ऑल आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द मेल लीडरशिप। बात की जाए भारतीय समाज की, एक पेट्रियार्कल माइंडसेट होता है। यदि महिलाएं पॉलिटिक्स में जाती हैं तो उनके खिलाफ डेरोगेटरी कमेंट्स बताए जाते हैं। एमनेस्टी इंटरनेशनल की रिपोर्ट ने भी इसको रिकॉग्नाइज किया है। हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रोविजंस को भी देख सकते हैं, जैसे कि भारत का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रियम्बल कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ इक्वालिटी देता है। आर्टिकल 15(3) और आर्टिकल 325, 326 पॉलिटिकल इक्वालिटी देता है। मगर क्वेश्चन मैं ये करना चाहूंगी कि क्या ये असल में देता है? क्या महिला इसका लाभ उठा पा रही हैं? भारतीय सरकार ने कई मेजर्स उठाए, जैसे कि मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ विमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन एस्टैब्लिश किया, नेशनल कमीशन फॉर वुमेन, बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ, सर्व शिक्षा अभियान, बट काफी महिलाएं इसका लाभ नहीं उठा पा रही। भारत के अंदर एक इट इज सीन अ वेरी पुअर पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन। इंडिया ओनली हैड वन फीमेल प्राइम मिनिस्टर, इंदिरा गांधी। हालांकि स्कैंडिनेवियन कंट्रीज में द नंबर इज मच हाई। यदि हम इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर की बात करें तो जब तक कंपनीज एक्ट पास नहीं हुआ तब तक भारत के अंदर महिलाओं को बोर्ड के अंदर कोई अधिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन नहीं दिया जाता था। कंपनीज एक्ट ने मैंडेट किया कि महिलाओं को एक महिला मेंबर बोर्ड में होनी ही चाहिए, उसके बाद ही 17.1% बोर्ड के अंदर महिला हैं। यदि हम बात करें ट्रांसजेंडर की तो 2014 के अंदर भारत ने ट्रांसजेंडर को रिकॉग्नाइज किया। हालांकि कोई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन स्पेशली रिकॉग्निशन नहीं देते ट्रांसजेंडर को। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया ने अपनी जजमेंट नालसा वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया के अंदर कई राइट्स दिए ट्रांसजेंडर्स को, मगर स्टिल दे फेस इश्यूज, दे फेस डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, सोसाइटी उन्हें अबैंडन कर देती है, दे फेस लैक ऑफ एजुकेशनल फैसिलिटीज और कई इश्यूज दे फेस। जब तक हम और सरकार एक साथ मिलके कोई मेजर्स नहीं उठाते तब तक कुछ हो नहीं सकता। तो हमें एक साथ मिलके बदलाव लाना पड़ेगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Very good, Tripti and Bhavya. I think I really liked जो आपने कहा ना, एक साथ मिलके बदलाव लाना पड़ेगा. That really is what the feminist vision is. जो भी जैसे आप कह रहे थे कि सरकार has tried and yes indeed बहुत सारी policies हैं. अगर आप पॉलिसीज और गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स और कमीशंस की तरफ ध्यान दें तो शायद जितना इंडिया में है उतना बहुत कम देशों में होगा. So Initiatives are there. But समाज को change करना cannot only be the sarkar's duty, you know. That change will come, like I kept saying, when power is shared in a horizontal way within the society. उस मंजिल तक पहुंचने में आपको, आपकी पीढ़ी को, इसके बाद जो when you become leaders, the people after you, we have to keep sharing these ideas. So excellent. I think you've done a great job. There is history in it, there's politics in it, and there is an imagination of the future in it. So very well done. Very good. Let's hear this.
Sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
It is visible. Okay. So I will be speaking on the topic gendering the politics, why there is lack of women's participation in politics. As we all know, politics was always gendered. It means since ancient times हम देखते आ रहे हैं कि women were not having any political rights. इंडिया में यदि हम women representation की बात करें legislative bodies में, तो लोकसभा में उनका representation less than 10% है और state assemblies में उनका representation less than 5% देखने को मिलता है. Now, I would like to discuss the reasons why there is lack of women's representation in politics. Number one is election aversion. It means women themselves do not want to run political institutions because they sometimes underestimate their qualifications. There is also voter biasness against female candidates. There is lack of education among women. Women are not much educated to be capable to take part in politics. There is also gender discrimination. In most of the countries, we see women are treated as second-class citizens. Also, men, due to their ego clash, do not want to share political activities with women. There is also unwillingness of women. Most of the time, women are also unwilling to come out from their comfort zone as they perceive politics as struggle for power. I would like to add some facts and figures about women's representation. There are only 4 countries in the world in which women have 50% or more representation in national parliament. There are only 22 countries in the world in which women are head of state. Only 21% government ministers are women, and there are only 14 countries in which women constitute about 50% in cabinet. If I talk about a report 2021 में वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम द्वारा रिलीज किए गए जेंडर गैप इंडेक्स में इंडिया को 156 देशों में से 140 स्थान प्राप्त हुआ था. इस रिपोर्ट के अनुसार इंडियन पार्लियामेंट में वुमेन का शेयर देखें तो वो 14.4% देखने को मिलता है, और यदि हम वुमेन मिनिस्टर्स की बात करें तो उनका शेयर 2019 में 23.1% था, जो कि गिरकर 2021 में 9.1% रह गया. So if I talk about what are the strategies to expand women's political participation, what we can do for the improvement in women's participation. Number one is educating women in politics. If we provide enough knowledge to the women, then their self-confidence would be developed in the women and they will be able to become more capable to take part in politics. Increasing reservation for women by allotting some seats for women, it can also help them to improve representation in politics. Number third is promoting women in leadership and decision making roles. इसके लिए हम मीडिया की हेल्प ले सकते हैं, बिकॉज उसके थ्रू हम वुमेन को एक रोल मॉडल की तरह शो कर सकते हैं, जिससे कि दूसरे वुमेन भी एनकरेज हो पॉलिटिक्स में आगे स्टेप लेने के लिए. So there are many more steps we can take, but here I would like to conclude by saying that popular UNESCO slogan, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a family. So thank you everyone for listening me patiently.
Excellent, Tripti. It's you've put everything so succinctly and comprehensively. You know, there are so many complex ideas in your presentation. but it's admirable. And I can see that your college is really providing you with the backdrop and an ethos where you're being encouraged to think and apply what you're learning in the classroom to the life around you. And I'm sure your principal, the IQAC, and your faculty members like Madhuri have a very important role to play in this. Remember what I said about feminist leadership. Nobody is made on their own. You are because of your teachers and your admin and the karamcharis and the college staff, and everybody goes into the making of each of you. So hats off to your faculty. I think they've done a great job of giving you the confidence to speak. You are young and there are many more miles to go, but to be able to do this is, I think, tremendous. It's really remarkable. And that confidence comes only when your teachers repose that confidence in you. So they are true feminist leaders. So wonderful. Students, you've done a great job.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Faculty, my deep admiration for the faculty and for your institution, which is allowing such activities. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much,
very
ma'am.
much. Thank you so very much, Professor Krishna. I mean, it was such a delight. I have been looking forward to getting you over, and today I have achieved that. And the kind of presentation that you made, it was theoretically grounded. I think we've gathered a lot, many inputs. And the way you've been able to relate feminism and leadership, I think conceptually also, a lot of things have become more clear. Even as a teacher, I can say that. So I think I've been thoroughly, kind of fascinated by the presentation, because questions there are more, but it's a paucity of time. I think that perhaps another time we will definitely have you over. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you on behalf of the WDC team. You have come mid-semester. That means a lot to us. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think our next resource person, Professor Rashmi, has also joined in. Just give me a minute, Peter, before I just see. I just got a message from her.
Yes, I'm very much here.
She has
Yeah.
joined.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, please. Kushi would like to say something, or shall I introduce?
I was just going to say a very warm
please,
welcome to Dr. Rashmi ma'am. Thank you for joining us today. And before we move forward, can I request Madhuri ma'am to please formally introduce you to the rest of the students here?
Thank you, Kushi. You're doing a good job. Thank you. And I am so very happy that Rashmi ma'am has joined us today. I think we couldn't have hoped for a better resource person. She is a thorough, professional, a thorough bureaucrat, a policy maker. And before I delve into her, her credentials, let me tell you, girls, this is a very, very long, biodata that I have of hers, her academic achievements. But I want you to listen because I love reading about ma'am, and I'm going to share all that with you today. So Rashmi ma'am, as we know, is an IS officer. And today she is Commissioner Taxes in the J&K region. And also, she is also the founding pillar of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao campaign, which has actually laid an indelible impact in this country. Now, her career spans working in the state government of Delhi, the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Ministry of Women and Child, Government of India, urban local bodies, to the Union Territory of Jammu Kashmir, where she is currently, of course, discharging her duties. I would like to also add that as Secretary of the New Delhi Municipal Council from 2018 to 2020, she introduced a new culture of civic engagement over issues like sanitation, environment protection, and value education for children. As secretary in the Andaman and Nicobar administration from 2016 to 2018, she started several innovative programs to enhance the outreach and effectiveness of the departments of industry, social welfare, and administrative reforms, which was heading. Mrs. Singh has encouraged the setting up of convergence forums for child rights at different levels and ushered in a new series of Shakti Samanvaya camp, I think, which is truly creditable. As a founder as a founder director of Mission Convergence, Samajik Suvidha Sangam in Delhi, she was instrumental in laying the foundation structures and processes which define this internationally acclaimed program, which created new paradigms for governance by aligning government policies and delivery mechanisms to reach out to the vulnerable. As Executive Director for the National Mission for Empowerment of Women, Government of India, 2011 to 2014, she was instrumental in building a national action plan for saving and promoting the girl child in India, that is Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, is also a visible outcome of these endeavors, which today sees improvement all throughout India. In her stint as Secretary cum Director, Social Welfare and Women and Child in Delhi, from September 2020 to May 2022, she ushered several pioneering initiatives using convergence approach. Notable amongst these are the child-centric convergence camp, where several children affected due to COVID, including those orphaned, could be connected to various schemes and services of the government. I think that task itself is remarkable. Dr. Singh also has been honored nationally and internationally for her work. Some of the notable awards and recognitions she has received are the Commonwealth Association for Public Administration and Management, Innovation Awards for Stree Shakti, Mission Convergence Award 2010, Leadership Award for International from University of Minnesota, USA. I think the list will go on and on because there are many, many awards that ma'am has earned by dint of hard work and by her determination. I would also like to share with you that Mrs. Singh is also, has graduated from Lady Shriram College. And I feel sad that we couldn't interact because she left before I joined. But nevertheless, today we have one person who was faculty member from LSR and one who was a student of LSR. So I think in that sense, we are going to really immensely benefit by Dr. Rashmi Singh today. Her presentation is also going to lead us and carry us through to many, many facets of policy making and other, I think, domains and fortes that she may have covered in her presentation. We warmly welcome you, ma'am, on behalf of WBC team, ASMITA. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. I wish I was face to face with all the lovely students and you, Dr. Madhuri. I really, appreciate the fact that you have taken the trouble to be connecting, people who are like far away from your eyes. Yeah, I'm like sitting here in Srinagar, wearing my coat, so you can imagine how the weather would be right here. But and I tried to link through the laptop, but I think there was some it was little shaky, the net connection. So now I've logged on to my phone itself. So I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So, the presentation, which I would have had, now it actually, looks small in front of the presentation, which has already been rendered by the students, I must say. Because I just had the pleasure of listening to Bhavya and Tripti. I saw the small presentation which they had, which was based on research of lot of data and also out understanding of what, trajectory the data is telling us, as far as women's representation is concerned, in say politics especially. So, looking at that, I was really wondering if I'm like, going to take the structured presentation, which actually talks about facts and figures, which we draw mostly from the, like, what's already available, through the various surveys which take place, through ratings which take place. Yet, I will try and use those, and I will try and, like, also kind of, take through some of my own experiences as I've gone through the journey, because I think it is very, very important now to reflect back in terms of the topic which you have given, delineating gender in policy making. So, especially coming from a space where we as civil servants get a lot of opportunity, to kind of, question ourselves in terms of the practice, the which is lending you into the policy space, as to and reflect whether we are going in the right direction. So I'll be reflecting on that. Then you talk about industry and leadership in contemporary India. And I think all three are very, very linked to each other. And the kind of paradoxes which have already been spoken about. I think Professor Krishna Menon, I entered just when she was ending. But she is engaged, I'm sure, on many of these subjects, where you are trying to delineate gender, in these three different dimensions. And what was very catching for me was to see that the topic actually talks of, the ultimate goal too, making women visible. So hats off, Dr. Madhuri, for choosing this topic, because ultimately you've also, looked at the way forward in terms of countering the invisibilization of women in the various sectors, and looking at the way forward in terms of making women more visible. And that will be my attempt also, as I take through the structure, where I would like to talk about, some of the theoretical constructs of understanding gender and gender equality. I'd like to talk about a little bit about the status of women in the contemporary India through the gender lens, the key indicators. I would like to talk about, the stories and the narratives, my own journey, and at the same time, some other stories. I would like to reflect upon some of the successes and yet the obstacles and challenges still existing in terms of mainstreaming women, in terms of making women count effectively enough in policymaking, industry, and leadership. But before I speak about any of these, I'm reminded of my one of very latest encounters with, some of the paradoxes that we are going to dive into. What that encounter was brings to me the face of a woman, a girl who was probably little, less than 18, maybe 17, at Masuri, where I was doing my phase 4 training at the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. So what caught me, my attention was that this little girl, she had a, huge load over her head. She was a rag picker with two small young children beside her. They were her brothers. And when I got down to talking to her, well, that kind of posed the very, very serious questions. Are we doing enough? Because here was a girl who has never been to school. She is not able to send her brothers to school because there were other children to still be taken care of. As a rag picker, she alone could not earn well enough. So she needed the brothers out of the school to help her out. She was clearly anemic, as a phrase would tell me. She was a migrant labor and a seasonal labor too, as and when she would get an opportunity to work, because of tourist influx in a place like Mussoorie. She was from Bihar, a flood-affected area, where she said that the family had migrated and the mother and father were not keeping well. So it was upon her to feed, the 6 children which were there in the family. Now, more than this case, what would never leave me, at least for some time, is the fact that, this was something close to a place where all the policymakers, are getting nurtured. In Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy, the civil servants, many of the, students today, be it the Mata Sundri College or many other colleges in Delhi University or others, would probably be aspiring to go to that place where we are taught about, so many different ways in which, we can have a more effective policy formulation. But what, set me thinking again was the fact that more than the classroom, more than the theory, more than the books, what poses a bigger challenge is one such real life case study. And if we are in a position to address the kind of vulnerability, the multiple vulnerability, the so-called intersectionality of vulnerabilities, which are posed before us in real life situation. And that is the challenge, not only for policymakers, but I think for each one of us, all around, as we see in our neighborhood, as we see, in terms of the life of the domestic help, which is available in many of the houses which can afford it. So for me, the challenge and how to, kind of use this particular case study to simulate the others who were in that journey with me, in that learning of so-called phase 4 learning. So I posed this question, and interestingly, there were a set of panelists who were there, who had come from different states, who had again come from very senior position. They were policymakers, they were academicians too. So this was a case study which I posed before them. Now, what was very, I think, moving and also disturbing for a person like me was the response which I had from, one of the senior most persons over there. The response was, Madam, आप जिस केस की बात कर रहे हैं, ऐसे तो बहुत सारे केसेस होते हैं, तो हम किस किस केसेस की यहाँ पे बात करें? तो यहाँ पे तो हम जेनरिक पॉलिसी की बात कर रहे हैं. मैं हिंदी में इसलिए बोलूंगी, जैसा डॉक्टर माधुरी ने कहा, कि मैं शायद इस अभिव्यक्ति को, जो भावना की मैं यहाँ पे बात कर रही हूँ, इस पूरे उद्घोषण में कहीं ना कहीं अगर भावना नहीं है, तो मुझे नहीं लगता है कि हम पूरा जो है इसको एक सही अंजाम दे पाएंगे, या इसका जो आउटकम तो हम एनविसाज करते हैं जब भी इस तरह के वर्कशॉप का, तो एक आउटकम जो होता है वह तभी पूरा हो पाता है जब हम उसके एक भावना के साथ में जुड़ते हैं. और भावना कोई जानकारी से नहीं होती है, भावना कोई सूचना से नहीं होती. सूचना तो इंटरनेट पे बहुत मिल जाती है, लेकिन भावना होती है यदि मैं और आप एक मत होकर के कहीं ना कहीं इस बात के चिंतन मनन में भी साथ में, यदि हम इस पे रिफ्लेक्ट कर पाए और साथ ही साथ अपनी भूमिका को भी महसूस कर पाए. एज अ सिविल सर्वेंट मुझे जरूर लगा कि मैं क्या सही दिशा में जा रही हूँ, क्या हम सब सही दिशा में जा रहे हैं, क्या हम जिस पेस की बात करते हैं, चेंज की बात करते हैं, वह सही दिशा में हम चेंज को ला पा रहे हैं. चेंज, अगर मैं इसी केस की बात लूं, तो बहुत कुछ ऐसा होना चाहिए था जो कि मुझे और आपको, जो मतलब I would say the more fortunate amongst us who have the equal access to opportunities which the Constitution has provided us, which various schemes have provided us. As a public servant, again, I would say that, I've been like looking at various schemes which are already there providing a channel. Empowerment की journey इसी से शुरू होती है कि हम जब अपने, मतलब we are able to avail of the opportunities. But at the same time, each of these case studies today poses a challenge. Why? Because we are living at a time when, if we don't question ourselves about the left out, if we don't question ourselves about those who are still at the periphery, if we don't question ourselves about, looking at, the various opportunities available and yet the access gap, जो डिमांड एंड सप्लाई के बीच में जो एक्सेस गैप है, अगर हम उसकी चिंता नहीं करते हैं, तो हम कितने भी रिसोर्सेज को, कितने भी हम स्कीम को लेकर के आ जाते हैं, तो भी हम पूरा जो है उस पे कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग उससे वंचित रह जाते हैं. और वो भी उन महिलाओं की यहाँ पर हम बात कर रहे हैं. पॉलिसी में सबसे बड़ा पॉलिसी का क्रक्स यही है आज की तारीख में कि रिसोर्सेज रहते हुए भी लोग जो है उससे बाहर क्यों रह जाते हैं? स्कूल्स है, कॉलेजेस है, हॉस्पिटल्स है, लेकिन तभी भी जब मैं देखती हूँ कि हमारी स्कीम्स है, कि ये जिस केस एग्जाम्पल मैंने आपके सामने रखा है कि वह यदि इससे वंचित है, तो हमारे बार सबसे बड़ी आज की तारीख में जो चिंता है और जो चैलेंज है वो वही रह जाती है। जहां तक आपने कॉन्सेप्ट नोट की बात कही, मैं ये देख रही हूँ कि कॉन्सेप्ट नोट में आपने बहुत अच्छे से इसको लिखा है कि ग्रोइंग इनइक्वालिटी एंड मार्जिनलाइजेशन, ग्रोइंग की जो आपने बात की है वह जरूर एक मतलब इट इज अ सब्जेक्ट टू बी seen in what manner we are looking at growth and equality and inequality, and in what manner we are interpreting marginalization. But at the same time, जिस तरह की बात आपने कॉन्सेप्ट नोट में लिखी, जो मेरे अटेंशन में यह भी आया कि मिसिंग डेवलपमेंट, there was a time when we were actually talking about the missing girl child, the phenomenon of missing girl child. What was that phenomenon? It was related with sex ratio. सेक्स रेशियो आपको पता है कि जब 2001 का सेंसस आया, 2011 का सेंसस आया, तो उस समय मैं आंकड़ों में नहीं जाऊंगी, लेकिन एक तरह से एक नेशनल इमरजेंसी की परिभाषा में सेक्स रेशियो को, एडवर्स सेक्स रेशियो को, वेयर देयर वर मच लेसर गर्ल्स बीइंग बोर्न देन बॉयज, उसको रखा गया था एक नेशनल इमरजेंसी की तरह। तो मिसिंग गर्ल चाइल्ड का ये फिनोमिना है, वही कहीं ना कहीं आगे चल करके जो मिसिंग डेवलपमेंट वाली बात स्कॉलर्स कहते हैं, तो उसमें रिफ्लेक्ट करता है। आपने मेरे परिचय में बोला कि मैं बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ के शुरुआती दौर में आई बीन engaged very deeply into lot of these policies and practices and scheme formulation, where we could look at the various factors through which we could address the various issues, both at policy and the societal level. And बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ में सबसे अच्छी बात यही हुई कि सोसाइटल लेवल में, एटीट्यूड लेवल में जेंडर नॉर्म्स है, जो पेट्रियार्कल नॉर्म्स है, उसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा कोशिश यह की गई कि हम इसमें एक कम्युनिकेशन स्ट्रैटेजी द्वारा जो एक कम्युनिटी अवेयरनेस होता है उसको हम कैसे ला पाए, क्योंकि उसके पहले एक्ट्स तो बहुत थे। एक्ट जैसे आपको पता होगा, मेरे पहले की भी प्रेजेंटेशन में बातें आई होगी कि वेदर इट इज डाउरी प्रोहिबिशन, वेदर इट इज maternity benefit act, whether it is prevention from sexual harassment act, whether it is बाकी आपका वो डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस को प्रिवेंट करने का वो भी आपने एक्ट देखा। तो एक्ट्स बहुत थे। सेक्स रेशियो पर्टिकुलर के लिए आपने सुना होगा PCPNDT एक्ट, वह भी एक एक्ट ये रहा। लेकिन उसके बाद भी what was very very rampant was the fact that ड्यू ड्यूरे जो हम एक एम्पावरमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं वो डी फैक्टो एम्पावरमेंट में पूरी तरह से ट्रांसलेट नहीं कर पा रहा था, उसमें एक वाइड गैप था। और उस गैप को दूर करने के लिए बहुत जरूरी था कि जब हम किसी भी लीगल कानूनी या पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क में हम एक कम्युनिटी का पूरी तरह से उस प्रोसेस में इन्वॉल्व नहीं करते, उनके माइंडसेट, उनके एटीट्यूड, उनके बिलीफ, उनके सोशल नॉर्म्स, उनके स्टीरियोटाइप्स पे अगर हम काम नहीं करते हैं तो हम उस तरह का एनवायरमेंटल चेंज नहीं ला पाएंगे। यह हमारी समझ थी। और बिकॉज ऑफ दैट अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हिच वी हैड डेवलप्ड बाय टॉकिंग टू academicians, by talking to other practitioners, by talking to gender advocates, that we could bring about a formulation, a program in which the focus was to create that mass awareness. And it was the first of its kind, believe me. When we are talking only about a government-led communication program and strategy, not for selling any product, not for selling any scheme, but just for influencing mindset, just for sensitizing people that what it is to discriminate a girl, what it is not to recognize the value of a girl child, what harm does it do, to the nation as a whole. What harm does it do to the economy as a whole? Can the nation have a balanced growth if we do not have the balance in terms of the proportion, of boys vis-a-vis the girls? So that was the kind of mindset, when we were looking at bringing the story in the development process of nation as a whole. And while I talk about all this journey, it is very important also to reflect about the kind of understanding which people had. Why this again is a matter of concern. जैसे मैंने एक concern share किया कि किसी ने issue को trivialize किया ये कहते हुए कि cases तो बहुत है, हम तो policy की बात कहें. और मेरा यहाँ पे lesson ये था कि एक एक केस ही policy को बनाता है, उसको समझाता है. So it is not a general universal thing. And why I said that understanding में बहुत जरूरी है, एक common understanding बनना. Because अभी भी मैं देखती हूँ कि even in the process of policy formulation, one of the challenges which I have been facing is to convince people, what the journey of when women empowerment as a whole should really be taken to be. In fact, I would like to share that in one of the programs, when a review program, the question which was asked was that you have so many programs and schemes for women, but the other, and at that point of time, I was with the Ministry of Women and Child. We are spending so much, but are the women empowered? That was a question. Again, that question came from a very, very senior person in the Planning Commission, which was meant to review the programs and then decide whether to continue it further or not. Well, the answer is not so simple. Why not so simple is because I cannot say that all women are empowered on any point of time. It is a process, it is a journey where people like even you and me, all of us are there, negotiating and navigating, I think, for every situation which is posed before us. So it is not as simple as that मैंने एक डॉक्टरेट की डिग्री कर ली, मैंने एक IAS का एग्जाम क्वालिफाई कर लिया, तो मैं एम्पावर्ड हो गई. आप एज अ स्टूडेंट, आपने अगर अपना पढ़ाई खत्म कर ली, आप एम्पावर्ड हो गए, ऐसा नहीं होता है. तो मेरी जो समझ रही है एम्पावरमेंट की इस जर्नी में, जब हम पूरे मतलब विमेन विजिबिलिटी की हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो इसमें कहीं ना कहीं these are the questions which we need to pose, that let's develop a better understanding, that remove the roadblocks which are there, remove the barriers which are there. So for me, the very fact that I've had to convince people who have been viewing the programs, the schemes, the policies, from a lens where it is said कि हमने ये कर दिया और इसके बाद तो इसका result जो है women के participation में दिखना ही चाहिए. It's not so simple. So what happens is that we often forget to actually see the nuances of the various kinds of social obstacles, barriers, challenges that women, girls face in their daily lives. And that is again, something that we as policymakers, you as students, as budding policymakers, academician, or as budding professionals in whichever walk of life that you are, you need to always be advocate and a gender champion to be able to bring, the women's issues in a proper perspective. That is one very, very key, to bringing I think that environment, in which the gender discourse as such, it has to be something much more pragmatic than, the notion where things are seen as a simplistic, definition of schemes, laws, programs. And that is why the lived in experiences today and in times to come are going to be always important. And just before I started, I also heard about, somebody talking about network, and I fully believe in it. The network, the social capital, understanding of the importance of these things is highly important. In terms of many of our programs, now today I can proudly say that, well, the government also realizes the importance of, just building this capital in terms of social institution, community institutions, which you may have heard in the name of self-help groups, different forms of women collectives, different forms of platforms, forums, networks, whether in terms of village organizations, whether in terms of block organizations, whether in terms of district level federations. So now we have over the period understood that the kind of approach that we've been talking about, when we reflect on a policy as women's welfare and then shifting to women's empowerment, today is delving much more on women's participation, delving much more on women being equal partners in development process. And I think the advocacy has to be built around it more and more in times to come. Now, let me just go back again because, I'm speaking mostly from my heart, and then I forget to look at the papers, and I'll probably miss out on some of the points which are there on the paper. So allow me to, take that liberty also. So some of the things which I thought that the topic is which we need to reflect upon is definitely, looking at, the kind of recognition, the visibility of women in the as a contributor, as a productive workforce, which certainly requires some major policies in times to come, which probably you may want to look at what some of the Scandinavian countries have also done, because we do realize that there is a problem which does not make women work count. And the fact that women's work getting non-monetized, is leading to an impression where women are seen as dependent, which is actually not a correct scenario in the whole national economic framework. So that is something which, again, as students, as researchers, I would encourage all of you to see, how some of the other countries, maybe through the use of satellite economy, have made women's work count through a proper formula of monetizing work, which is not a paid work. I'm not going into the notions of paid and unpaid, because I think that you have already delved into it deeper enough. But I will certainly like to challenge all of you to see what formula and how bring it more into the national discourse, so that even that so-called unpaid work gets into that discourse of how it is contributing to the national GDP. Female participation, representation in the political sphere is again something which is something which all of you have been talking about in terms of the mismatch of the inclusivity and democracy, which we claim otherwise, that how effective this participation is. इस पे मैं आपको फिर हिंदी में अपना कुछ उदाहरण के तौर पे मैं बताना चाहूंगी, जो मुझे लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं महिलाओं को खुद भी इसमें एक बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी लेनी होगी। ये सिर्फ एक मुद्दा नहीं है। क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो हो जाता है रिजर्वेशन द्वारा, 73rd अमेंडमेंट, 74th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट, इसके तहत जो एक 33% रिजर्वेशन आया लोकल बॉडीज में, PRIs में, अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज के तहत, और जिसको कहीं कहीं पे आपने देखा होगा कि किसी स्टेट में 50% तक, मैं बिहार से जैसे आती हूँ, वहां पे 50% रिजर्वेशन जो है लोकल बॉडीज में आया, PRIs में आया। लेकिन चुनौती कहाँ है? चुनौती है कि कितनी प्रभावी वह भागीदारी बन पाती है। Representation हो गया, but the challenge is how effective that participation is, and which is the main challenge for building true leadership. Because again, I will not go into the definition of what leadership we are talking about in terms of like deciding what costs things are leading to, in terms of influencing policies, in terms of influencing budget, in terms of influencing resource allocation. That will be the touchstone of whether the woman is in an effective role or not. So here, why I am challenging again all of you is because I think we all have a role. We don't have a role to enact laws. We don't have a role to make policies, but we all have a role to see, that policies are energized enough, to get it more communitized. Now, what do I mean by that? मैं अपने बिहार के गांव का एग्जाम्पल आपको दूंगी। मैं वहां गई एक बार 26 जनवरी के समय, तो प्रधान थी, महिला थी, और उनका बेटा था, वो मुझे साथ में लेकर के कि मैम आज तो पंचायत में चलना है, आज तो माँ पंचायत घर में जाएंगी। तो पंचायत घर आपने देखा होगा आजकल बहुत अच्छे बन गए हैं यूपी में। जैसे मैंने देखा है कि बहुत सारे मतलब अच्छी बिल्डिंग्स आती हैं। मेरे इनफैक्ट हस्बैंड वहाँ पे वो एडिशनल चीफ सेक्रेटरी इसमें पंचायत केस का वो देख भी रहे हैं। तो उनके जब मैं पंचायत घर को देखती हूँ, बिहार में मुझे उतने अच्छे नहीं दिखे थे, और मैं आशा करती हूँ कि और अच्छे बन जाए। लेकिन जैसे भी है, it is a space where as a pradhan, I mean, that is my office, right? So here I am sitting in Kashmir talking to you from my office. So I expect the pradhan who has come because of virtue of being offered that seat as a Dalit member, but who has won the election, even in that reserved quota for women, for Dalit, she has won that election, she's there. So what I learned is कि आज बहुत बड़ा दिन है, क्योंकि वह प्रधान जो है 26 जनवरी को झंडा फहराने आई है। तो मुझे भी अच्छा लगा कि भाई दिन तो बहुत अच्छा है। तो बट व्हाई इज एवरीबडी सो एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट? आई वाज क्यूरियस, व्हाई सो एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट कि प्रधान जी आई हैं। तब मुझे पता चला कि साल में 2 ही दिन होता है जब वह प्रधान जी, महिला प्रधान, हमारी नेता, हमारी रिप्रेजेंटेशन लोकल जो गांव की, तो वह एक 15 अगस्त और 26 जनवरी 2 ही दिन ऐसा होता था जब वो जाती है झंडा फहराने। इसलिए लोग उनको देखने के लिए जो बड़े खुश होते थे कि भाई वो घर से बाहर निकली। अब देखिए मेरा हियर अगेन आई वांट ईच वन ऑफ अस टू थिंक दैट इज इट, where does the weakness really lie? Where does the gap really lie? Is it in the fact that we don't have policy good enough? Or is it in the fact that we as women, that woman, who has the opportunity now is still not availing that opportunity? तो कहीं ना कहीं हमें यह भी क्वेश्चन करना होगा कि हम इस प्रोसेस में we all recognize that there are gaps, but what is very important to challenge the environment which is leading towards that gap. In that environment, it's not always that the family is responsible, it's not always that the society is responsible. We as women have to start questioning to what extent I'm responsible, to what extent was that woman pradhan herself responsible. मैं एक और एग्जांपल आपको दूंगी। राजस्थान की बात है, वहां के इसी तरह से एक हम पंचायत के साथ में कोई बैठक कर रहे थे, और वहां जो महिला रिप्रेजेंटेटिव थी, उनका ये कहना था कि मैंने उनसे पूछा कि आप ये बताएं आप कितने बार जाती हैं, अगर आप अपने ऑफिस ही नहीं जाएंगे तो काम कैसे होगा, आप कितना जाते हैं? जाते हैं, जब समय मिल जाता है तब हम जाते हैं। तब मेरा दूसरा सवाल था तो समय कितना मिलता है? तो फिर कहती समय तो देखिए नहीं मिलता है। नहीं, मतलब घर के काम से समय तो नहीं मिलता है। अब क्यों नहीं मिलता है? क्योंकि उनका ये कहना है कि भाई सब कुछ, खाना भी बनाना है, बच्चों को भी देखना है, सब हमें खुद करना है। यह बात मैं मानती हूँ, ठीक है, यह एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती मैं मानती हूँ। जब हम जेंडर रोल्स की बात करते हैं, जेंडर स्टीरियोटाइप की बात करते हैं, दैट ड्रजरी ऑफ वर्क या ट्रिपल बर्डन की हम बात करते हैं, ये सब कॉन्सेप्ट्स आप बड़े फेमिलियर होंगे कि व्हाट दिस वुमेन्स ट्रिपल बर्डन एंड ऑल इज, घर का भी काम करना, बाहर का भी काम करना। लेकिन जब हम ये बात करते हैं, इन बैरियर्स की हम बात करते हैं, तो उसमें हम तो व्हाई शुड वी नॉट टॉक अबाउट द फैक्ट दैट वुमेन टुडे आर पोइज्ड टू बिकम अ फाइटर हरसेल्फ। Women today have to start questioning these things in the immediate surrounding. Women today have to start questioning these in our individual role, which they don't, which many don't. When I say they, many don't. So today, I think it is again very important that questioning is not just to externals, but questioning to the internal self, which will probably make us much more empowered again than any other program, scheme, reservations. And why I'm saying this, now let me reflect on probably my own childhood. डॉक्टर माधुरी ने मुझसे यह भी कहा था कि मैं थोड़ी अपने भी जर्नी के बारे में रिफ्लेक्ट करूं। मैं जब देखती हूँ अपनी जर्नी को, मैं बिहार से हूँ, बिहार में अगेन एक कुछ सोशल नॉर्म्स वैसे थे कि जहाँ पे अपना एक पुरुष प्रधान समाज उस रूप में देखा जाता था। लेकिन उसके बाद भी मैंने ये देखा कि मेरी मदर वो अपना बहुत मेहनत करके उन्होंने शादी के बाद पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन भी किया, फिर उन्होंने पढ़ाना भी शुरू किया, और मतलब शी वाज अ मेजर ब्रेड अर्नर इन द फैमिली. नाउ she obviously was encouraging the girl that she had in the family along with the two boys to also take her studies very very seriously. अब दिक्कत क्या होती थी कि जहां तक सोशल नॉर्म्स का सवाल होता था, तो लोग तो हमेशा कहते थे कि भाई ये क्या है, हम तो जब आपके घर में आते हैं आपकी बेटी हमेशा पढ़ती हुई मिलती है. और मुझे लगता था कि मैं बहुत बड़ा गुनाह कर रही हूँ कि मैं हमेशा पढ़ती हूँ. क्यों? क्योंकि उन्हें लगता था कि ये तो आगे जाकर के, वो बोलते भी थे, आगे जाकर के देखिए इसको बड़ा प्रॉब्लम होगा, शादी के बाद इसको बहुत दिक्कत होने वाली है. ये सब मैं सुनती थी, लेकिन अच्छा था कि मतलब मैं देखती थी कि देयर इज वन mature person, which was my mother, who was all the time supporting. कोई बात नहीं, वो कहती थी कि इसको आपने खाना बनाना नहीं सिखाया तो इसको तो बड़ी दिक्कत होगी. तो फिर जो वो कहती थी कि जब इसको करना होगा यह काम ये खुद कर लेगी. लेकिन आज मैं दोहरी नीति नहीं कर सकती हूँ, मुझे हमेशा ये बात याद रहती है. वो कहती थी दोहरी नीति नहीं, कि मैं अपने लड़कों को बोल रही हूँ कि तुम जाकर के पढ़ो, उनको तो मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ कि तुम जाकर खाना बनाओ, तो मैं अपनी बेटी से क्यों एक्सपेक्ट कर रही हूँ. तो इस तरह का मुझे कहीं ना कहीं वो मतलब वो माहौल में एक महिला का रोल जो है ना बहुत बड़ा दिखाई दिया. Because obviously, I mean, any father is like, as loving and affectionate, but day to day, as a woman, what kind of value systems that a mother or the grandmother, is adopting in terms of how she treats the boy vis-a-vis the girls. Now, coming to me, I would say, again, my world experience in terms of what I want to do, how I want to do, all that became very important. Why? Because, again, you really have to question yourself to the kind of miles that you want to walk, which requires sacrifice, which requires a lot of hard work, which requires a lot of commitment, which requires a lot of determination. If one is lacking in that, if one is like not focused enough in that, then it again we start blaming the external factors कि हमें इतनी opportunity नहीं मिली. तो मुझे लगता था कि as a girl probably our work it becomes even more challenging for us to challenge ourselves, to push ourselves even harder, and maybe even today it exists. क्योंकि जब हम बात करते हैं for equal opportunities, yet we see that it's not a level playing field. We recognize that. So if it is not a level playing field, so that means it is a given that we have to work harder, push ourselves, even more than the boys, which I firmly believed in. And let me tell you that even in the workspace, when I say that you have to influence the discourse, you have to be a better advocate than anybody else. You have to be a better communicator than anybody else. Why? Because many of the issues which affect the decision making, many of the issues which would never come into discourse, that we call in terms of like when you look at the concept, the gender lens, the gender budgeting, the resource allocations, many things will just get missed out. So you have to have to your voice, harder and louder than anybody else. That's what I always felt, because you still are living in a world where women's voice is in a minority as far as decision making is concerned. We do recognize the fact, whether it is the corporate world, the management positions, women in governance, women in leadership roles, in terms of whether it is like any public sector organization or government bodies, it is still much less. And figures अभी जैसे आपने बताया, किसी ने कहा कि नहीं 10% पार्लियामेंट में है, 5% लेजिस्लेशन में है, या हम कॉर्पोरेट बॉडीज में भी देखें तो मैनेजमेंट रोल पे यूनिवर्सिटी, मैं एकेडमिया के साथ में अभी इसमें हूँ, यूनिवर्सिटीज में आप देखें मैनेजमेंट पोजीशन, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पोजीशन जो है यूनिवर्सिटीज में जो वाइस चांसलर्स होते हैं वो कितने हैं विमेन. So what does it mean? One is that, okay, you are striving to break that glass ceiling. Of course, you should. But I also believe in the fact, and I also challenge you, that wherever you are, whichever position you are, you have to make your voice represent women's voice, represent gender issues, so that you are heard, not for sake of yourself, but you are heard and you are influencing, for the sake of many others whose voices are not getting heard. Because the topic, as I said, well, women's more visible. Visible does not mean कि हम और आप जैसे अपने को देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे, तो बस वो visibility is not just looking at each other. Visibility is also giving a voice which can get translated into many things, which can actually pave the path towards greater success, towards greater participation, towards greater representation. So that's the kind of voice that I'm talking about, building a voice and building a collective voice, which is only possible if we build a more collective consciousness. We are not aligned. We as women are not aligned fully in terms of what consciousness are we talking about. In fact, talking about women in leadership position, whether again social, economic, political, I strongly feel that the feminine style of leadership is something which is getting more and more the call of the day. And why do I think that? Because when you look around, you do see that in a world where probably competition, confrontation is becoming more of a norm, right? And when I talk about feminine style of leadership, I'm talking about collaboration. I'm talking about, convergence of thought, purpose, action. What is convergence? It's synergy, right? It's again building partnership. When we talk about that kind of partnership, I mean, again, the resources get aligned for much better impact, much better value in terms of the resources that you spend. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about empathy. I'm talking about, more sensitivity. I'm talking about caring. I'm talking about sharing. I mean, that's the kind of role which we used to define. Okay, why is it that girls and women are put into that bracket? One used to question that earlier, right? But let's stop questioning that. I would rather say that let's start advocating it in terms of the favor, the advantage, which even though, like we say that biologically, it's something that has come to women in terms of like these, the characteristics, the kind of qualities, जो qualification, जिस तरह के गुण जो मैंने यहाँ पे describe किया, मैंने कुछ गुण की बात की, तो उन गुण को हम विशेषता के रूप में देखें और उस विशेषता को हम एक फेमिनिन स्टाइल ऑफ लीडरशिप में उसके प्रभाव को उसको बड़ा करने के लिए, एक लीडरशिप के प्रभाव को बड़ा करने के लिए उस रूप में हम चर्चा करें. मैं क्यों आपसे ये बात कर रही हूँ? क्योंकि इस डिस्कोर्स में आप सबों को शामिल होना जरूरी है, उसमें प्राइड लेना जरूरी है. मैं ऐसा क्यों कह रही हूँ? क्योंकि देयर वाज अ टाइम जब हम डिनायल मोड में थे. डिनायल मोड में women are, why can't men cry? Why can't so why can't let's stop questioning men for the time being. Let's start looking at our own value for the time being. Now, the kind of values which we had, the kind of, strong qualities that we have, uski hum baat karte hain. Hum kahin na kahin harmonization में हम जो अपने special characteristics है, जो हम अपने special leadership attributes है, उसको शायद हम भूल जाते हैं. I have a feeling that we need to, feel pride in our leadership attributes. And I'm telling you that in this discourse, why I'm saying is, because I have been using these to the advantage of many of the public cause that I've stood for. Why I'm saying this is because I've been using it personally, to be able to provide that kind of leadership in my own public space, where I felt that I was not talking about transaction, I'm talking about transformation. And isn't it this which is the call for leadership today? The call for leadership is actually looking at transformational leadership. When you talk about business, you are talking about creating more opportunities, more livelihood, more gainful source of employment to all. When you're talking about political participation, you're talking about, again, influencing, policies in a manner in which you're creating more of inclusive society. You are talking about, influencing indicators, the 5 indicators which probably the gender gap report talks about. Let's start talking about influencing all those. As you might have seen, whether in terms of health and survival, whether in terms of educational attainment, whether in terms of economic participation and opportunity, be in terms of political participation, all these indicators are, giving us the label that we are a very gender unequal society. So what do we do to change that? Next year, again, the World Economic Forum is going to bring about the gender gap, report. So are we going to, think about using our day-to-day experiences, contribution, knowledge, practice in terms of making some dent, so that we don't slip behind even further? I mean, look at the kind of comparison that we are talking about amongst the Southeast Asian countries. When I looked at the data, when I looked at the report, do you think it's like, as a civil servant, I would be proud of that, the indicators in many of the other neighboring countries are getting much better. So each of us now need to challenge that when we talk about participation, when we talk about effective participation, we also need to start working on the mindset of not just boys, of course, men, of course, but we are also going to strategize. We are also going to collectivize. We are also going to create more networks. We are also going to be looking at a discourse where there is a change in environment as a whole. Now, when I talk about change in environment as a whole, let me tell you one thing, that in some of the, I'll just talk about critiques of our own policies. Now, in terms of critiques, see, I have the word which, came probably in my introduction is convergence, right? I mean, why convergence is? Because जब हम काम करते हैं डिपार्टमेंट में, सरकार के अंदर बहुत सारे अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट होते हैं जो कि सिनर्जी में नहीं काम करते हैं, बहुत सारे स्कीम होते हैं जो कि सिनर्जी में नहीं काम करते हैं, बहुत सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन होते हैं, जैसे आपने देखा कि नेशनल कमीशन फॉर वुमेन है, तो स्टेट कमीशन फॉर वुमेन है, तो कोई स्टेट सोशल वेलफेयर बोर्ड होता है, कोई जुवेनाइल जस्टिस बोर्ड होता है, कोई चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमिटी होता है, सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट के लिए वो रोकने के लिए इंटरनल आईसीसी होती है, इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमिटी होती है, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट हैं उनको एक लोकल कंप्लेंट कमिटी सेटअप करनी होती है। तो बहुत सारे अलग अलग इंस्टीट्यूशन हैं, लेकिन दिक्कत क्या होती है कि एक तो सबको उतनी जानकारी नहीं होती है, दूसरा क्या होता है कि इंस्टीट्यूशन बहुत ज्यादा वो कभी कभी तो क्रॉस पर्पसेस पे भी काम करते हैं और कभी कभी होता क्या है कि synergize नहीं कर पाते अपने एफर्ट को। तो अगेन एज अ पॉलिसी मेकर एंड फॉर दोज हु आर लाइक coming up in this to look at maybe as an area where you can contribute to look at how these institutions are working, I think that would be very useful for you to see around you, what institutions, whether they are there, how robust they are there, how effectively they are being utilized, because again the gap would be reduced if we do a reality check. Now, let me look at some of the other aspects in terms of, well, कुछ successes पे मैं आऊंगी. Successes पे मैं आऊंगी in terms of literacy rate, of course. When I look at the gap narrowing, men vis-a-vis women, that is a positive sign. But we know that there is much more which needs to be done. Fertility rate declining, marriage age going up. So these are I was looking at some of the things where we need to also be mindful of, some of the successes and where they are, if they are localized, we need to look at the good practices. Why I said, because some states are doing better than other states. Some districts are doing better than other districts. Now, it is important rather than bracketing everybody together, in the same way, we start highlighting those more and more. जहां तक महिलाओं की विषमता का इशू है, उसमें भी मैं ये हमेशा कहती हूँ कि we can't bracket all women. We can't bracket, when we talk about inequality, everybody that, women are one homogeneous whole. There again, we need to see the areas where the vulnerabilities are different, because then the policies get more and more customized. Women in disability, women affected by HIV, AIDS, the rural women, women who are like in old age, single women. So there are these, or women who are in sex work. Now, some of these things, as policymakers, at times we have also felt that there are certain paradoxes which need to get addressed. Suddenly, when I talked about women in sex work, आपको मैं बताना चाहूंगी कि एक पैराडॉक्स ये भी है कि हम जब देखते हैं कि एक इलीगल प्रोफेशन है, तो कई बार इसमें जो महिला सबसे ज्यादा वल्नरेबल है, पुश ड्यू टू सम सर्कमस्टेंसेस इनटू सेक्स ट्रेड, नाउ who is not getting recognized in terms of her identity, as she gets deprived from many of the social benefit schemes which otherwise should have been accruing to her as a poor woman, but she is denied because you are not recognizing her identity. तो आपने जिस इनविजिबिलिटी की बात की, जिस फेमिनाइजेशन ऑफ पॉवर्टी की आप बात कर रहे हैं अपने कॉन्सेप्ट में, इनविजिबलाइजेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में महिलाओं की हम बात कर रहे हैं, हम विमेन उसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं जो कि खेत में काम कर रहे हैं, विमेन who are slogging day and night in the fields, yet they are not counted as farmers. So that is again something that when we talk about women's participation in the economy, so एक paradox है कि हम उसको recognize नहीं कर रहे. So those are some things that we need to challenge and also build greater advocacy and see, how you can lead better, evidence-based planning for this. Why I say evidence-based planning is because, again, for any policy, we need to build that, research into, feeding into policy and also having a feedback loop. जो कि दूसरा जो स्टोरीज ऑफ चेंज की मैंने बात की, मेरा अब ना बैटरी भी थोड़ा सा लो हो रहा है because I've been using my phone only. So I think, so in terms of like, so we need to, then look at the different segments of women. When I talk about like women, who are into farming, not recognized as farmers, तो इस तरह के paradoxes को कुछ हम जब लेकर के आते हैं, तो हमें policy fabric के लिए एक बहुत like realistic input ये मिलता है. अच्छा, इसके अलावा मुझे लगता है कि मैं एंड ये करूंगी क्योंकि आपने इंडस्ट्री की बात कही. मैकेंजी का एक एनालिसिस है कि कंपनीज इन टॉप क्वार्टाइल फॉर जेंडर डाइवर्सिटी ऑन लीडरशिप टीम वर 25% मोर लाइकली to have above average profitability than companies in the fourth quartile. दूसरा, companies with a female board representation, they outperform those who have no women on board. तीसरा, business who include females in leadership do better than those who do not. Studies have been pointing out. Organizations with gender diverse practices, they attract and retain the best talents. Why I'm quoting these is because we need to use these studies into advocacy more and more. Okay, women participation, why it is important, what it leads to, what gain to the industry, what gain to the business, what gain to the nation as a whole. So I think I would now put my phone on charger and be ready to respond to questions which you have. Thank you.
For the wonderful way you enlightened us today. Before we move on to the next segment, can I request Anagha to please summarize whatever ma'am has said just now?
Thank you, Khushi. First of all, I would like to thank ma'am that she has given us a chance, like she have just shared all the beautiful memories of her and what all she have went through. And I would like to say that her experience in the field of as a civil service was it is not easy, but actually being a political science student for me, it is very much inspirational. So basically, ma'am has taught us about the status of women in India and how their participation can be led to a better change, and the stories and challenges which have she talked about in from her country, and also she have also explained about the global issues which has taken place. And other than that, she has told very much about the women empowerment in our country. She has explained very beautifully that the participation of women and influencing them to participate in every aspect, whatever it is, in industry or even politics or other social institution, is very important. And she has also said about the contribution and their practices which can be a motivation to the future women. uh, After that, I'd also like to explain about the uh, representation of women in politics. And ma'am has always also told that to bring a change, it is very important that a woman should be able to understand, understand the issues. And with that, she has to raise her voice at that level, so that it could change the mindset of every man in the society. And it is not an easy task to bring out women's participation, but surely it will take time for yeah, from you itself. So next, about that, she have also talked about the critics and also the success which have taken place in every field of whatever, uh, like the literacy rate. And we must be also highlighting the deprived sessions of many social needs that is uh, happening. So with that, I guess this is all what my summarizing part is. And if I have missed out some of it, I'm very sorry, ma'am. But explaining everything was you have explained us everything, and it is a huge task. And thank you very much for being with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
The floor is open for questions. If anyone has a question, you can either send it in the chat box or raise your hand, and we'll request Rashmi ma'am to answer your queries.
So I'll appreciate if the question is repeated, like, if there's any in the chat box, if somebody could just read it out.
We'll do that. Ma'am, if you don't mind, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Actually, I, as a person, as a student, I watch a lot of K dramas. And in one of those K dramas, there was this, it was in a law setting, and her superior yelled at her and said that this is why women should not be given power, because they make the courtroom smell like makeup. It was basically a criticism on her because she's a woman again. Okay. And the thing happened because she won the case against him. Okay. So he got angry at her and then he made that comment. So as a woman who's in a position of authority, who has been in the position of authority for a while, do you also face criticism like this, and how do you deal with it?
So, see, the point is, as I said, that the professionalism, if it is like kind of taken as a part and parcel of your personality, then it overweighs other things. So I felt, at least in my journey, that a lot of hard work to have that side of me, who was always taken as a thorough professional, overweigh any other attribute. Yeah, so I personally did not face it. And even though like there have been so many occasions when I've been probably, in a meeting, probably just the only woman, yet being able to make my voice heard. But it comes from a lot of practice on the ground of actually doing things. Because you see, कई बार होता है ना कि कोरी बात करने से नहीं होगा. सिर्फ बात करना, सिर्फ भाषण देना, सिर्फ लिखना, सिर्फ ये आपको प्रैक्टिस करना पड़ेगा. तो आप जो कहते हो, देखो एक और चीज मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी. अभी जैसे आपने ये कहा कि प्रैक्टिस करना. Now women, how much of when I phases in a different way. Now I just happen to talk about my husband, right? Now he is in a place in Lucknow, right? I mean, he's in Uttar Pradesh. Now many people, when you look at the challenges, the societal norms would keep asking me, even when I was in Delhi, he was in a, आप लोग साथ साथ नहीं रखते रहते हैं. There's something wrong with like the family, as if, so now if that bothered me, I wouldn't have been happy. If I was not happy, I would not have given my 100% in my work. So you have to be very strong, not to get deterred, not to get bothered by things which are not important in your life in terms of your core values. Because my core value is that I care for my husband, he cares for me, no matter how much of a distance we are staying in. It's not a usual family life, but it's my choice. I tell myself, well, it's my choices. If I want to leave my job, go and stay with him. I can have a normal family life. It's my choice that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I would give my best by actually liking what I'm doing. So, it's that kind of mental makeup because of which बाकी कौन क्या बोलता है फिर वो मैटर नहीं करता है.
Thank you, ma'am. If anyone else has a questions, you can put them in the chat box or raise your hand. We'll acknowledge you.
And I would encourage all of you to get linked on the social media if anybody is active, because I would, my Anganwadi workers are also linked to me on Twitter. So it is very nice when they share their stories, when they share their journey, and I can, probably just by complimenting them for what they are doing, promote their good actions. So that's again something, my way of building a network in which we can, just promote each other for like, building a coalition which believes in doing positive work. तो आप भी कुछ मतलब ऐसा कुछ भी कभी जुड़ना चाहो, ठीक है, with your positive thoughts, with your positive work, I would really welcome that.
Ma'am, we have a question from Nancy. She's saying that as a young girl, when you decided that you wanted to be a civil servant, what was the most difficult part of making that final decision?
The final decision, the difficult part is the challenge, because it's a difficult exam. So, उस समय बस यही होता है क्या, like whether I'll be successful. That's it. That, because everybody would like, make it feel कि ये तो बड़ा formidable है. At my time also, there were 4 lakh people appearing. Ultimately, 10,000 are called for the interview. Ultimately, 600 get into the final civil list. तो वो एक डाउट होता है ना कि क्या हो जाएगा. लेकिन उस डाउट को I remember that, when first time I was, qualified, तो उस जब 10,000 की बात आती है, when you go for your prelims, कई बार उसी स्टेज में डाउट आता है. I remember my brother saying that never doubt yourself. And that was, so some of these things, I mean, so these mantras of making yourself strong is what I really stand by. That helped me. Why I'm sharing is because it helped me to remain in whatever state. See, I've worked in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. I'm working in Srinagar. I'm working in Jammu. I travel to various places where nobody had gone here. As a commissioner taxes, I've been traveling to, many of the areas in J&K where people tell me that no other commissioner had come. I love taking on the challenge. So I love my work. I love the journey. So, it's that kind of like, never have. And whereas other people, when I was coming here, said, oh God, you're going to J&K, it's going to be so disturbed. Are you going to be safe? There are other people who kind of posed as well-wishers to ask me that, हम आपके लिए बात कर लें, आपको जल्दी से वापस बुलवाएं, are you safe over there? That kind of a thing. So you have to be confident. Yeah. What else?
Can I just chip in 1 minute?
Yes.
We are very fortunate that Dr. Lukesh is here with us still, and all through the session, he's our IQAC coordinator. And I would like to personally thank him as well as from the WDC team also. If Dr. Lukesh, you would like to say a few words, you're most welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Madhuri Sukija. मैडम रश्मि सिंह को हम पहले भी सुन चुके हैं हमारे कॉलेज में. लास्ट ईयर WDC का एक और कार्यक्रम था, आप उसमें आए थे, गोल्डन सिग्नेचर्स के साथ में, ओमकार जी के साथ में कार्यक्रम. मैडम कृष्णा मैनन को मैंने पहली बार सुना और काफी अच्छा, मैं शुरू से सुन रहा हूँ लगातार. काम साथ साथ चल रहे हैं, ऑफिस के काम अपने चल रहे हैं, लेकिन लगातार सुन रहा हूँ. मैडम ने एक बात बहुत अच्छे से कही, कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग एक बननी चाहिए, एक बहुत जरूरी चीज है अगर हम काम करें इस पर. तो एक मुझे जो समझ में आ रहा है, मेरे लिए जो समझ में आ रहा है कि हमें एक कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग बनाकर काम करने शुरू करने चाहिए. और दूसरी एक जो जरूरी चीज, डिसेबिलिटी वीमेन पर आपने बात करने की कोशिश की, जो जरूरी है. मैं खुद डिसेबल हूँ, मैं जानता हूँ कि विमेन विद डिसेबिलिटी की हालत क्या है. हम लड़कों की तो कहीं किसी तरह से कुछ गुजारा हो जाते हैं, लड़कियों की हालत बहुत बुरी है, चाहे वो जॉब में ही क्यों ना. तो ये दो इशूज आपने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से बताने की कोशिश की, और लड़कियों को बहुत सारी चीज पिछले बार भी आपने बहुत बताया था, और मैं उन सब डिटेल्स में नहीं जाऊंगा. मैं सिंपल, क्योंकि लगभग 1 बजे से कार्यक्रम चल रहा है, बच्चे भी थके हैं, माधुरी जी भी थकी हैं और सविता जी भी थकी हैं, सब लोग बैठे सुन रहे हैं. कई दिनों की प्रैक्टिस के बाद कोई एक कार्यक्रम होता है, कई दिनों की एक्सरसाइज के बाद एक कार्यक्रम होता है. तो आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और IQAC को आपने साथ में लेकर कार्यक्रम किया, ये हमारा सौभाग्य है कि आप लगातार हमारे साथ में कार्यक्रम करते हैं. हम लगातार कॉलेज की ओर से कॉलेज की क्वालिटी को एनहेंस करने के लिए, एकेडमिक एनहेंसमेंट के लिए काम करते हैं. और मैडम रश्मि और कृष्णा जी का बहुत बहुत आभार कि आपने हमें पुनः एक बार आशीर्वाद दिया और हमारे बच्चों को कुछ रास्ते सुझाए. बहुत जरूरी है आपके द्वारा, आप जैसों के द्वारा, बड़े लोगों के द्वारा जब मोटिवेशन मिलता है, बच्चों को सुनने को मिलता है. अब जैसे खुशी है काम कर रही है, अनग है, दोनों ने बहुत अच्छे से हैंडल किया है चीज़ों को. और लगातार मैं देख रहा हूँ कि स्टूडेंट्स का इन्वॉल्वमेंट बना हुआ है, क्वेश्चंस पूछ रहे हैं, सवाल पूछ रहे हैं. तो ये बड़ी चीज़ है. हम लोग जब JNU में पढ़ने के लिए आए तो हमें बोलना भी नहीं आता था, हम, ये सच है, हम जब पढ़ने के लिए दिल्ली आए तो बोलना भी नहीं आता था हमें. और हम धीरे धीरे करके हम भी अपने आप को 20-25 सालों में स्टेब्लिश कर पाए कॉलेज के अंदर, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर, एकेडमी में. तो समय लगता है चीज़ों को, एक साथ चीज़ें नहीं सुधरती है. एक उर्दू का शेर है, उसके साथ मैं खत्म कर अपनी बात, क्योंकि ज़्यादा नहीं कहना चाहिए इस समय. मैडम रश्मि ने अपनी बहुत बातें कही हैं और उनको बच्चों को अमल करना चाहिए उन बात कि तेरे माथे पे जो चिलमन है बहुत अच्छा है. उर्दू का एक बड़ा पॉपुलर सा शेर है, वही कहकर मैं अपनी बात खत्म करूँगी. तेरे माथे पे जो चिलमन है बहुत अच्छा है, तो उसे परचम बना लेती तो अच्छा होता. तो बस इसी के साथ एक बार पुनः माधुरी जी का और सविता जी का बहुत आभार, और मैडम रश्मि जी का कि आप हमें समय देते रहिए. हम इसी तरह से आपको लगातार बुलाते रहेंगे हमारे कार्यक्रमों में. और एक बार आप ऑफलाइन आए, एक बार कॉलेज में, तो एक समय बनेगा आपको सुनने का. तो हम जरूर आपको ऑफलाइन सुनना चाहेंगे कि आप समय निकालकर, थोड़ा सा समय हमारे लिए निकालिए, हमारी लड़कियों के लिए निकालिए. हम बहुत ये नहीं कहते कि हम बहुत बड़ा कॉलेज है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन है कि हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं अपने आप को, अपनी चीज़ों को सुधारने की, अपने एकेडमिक्स को सुधारने की, अपने बच्चों के कैरियर प्रोग्रेशन को लेकर बात हो या कुछ किसी और चीज़ को लेकर, हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि अपने आप को हम आगे बढ़ाएं. और आप जैसे लोगों के कदम हमारे जमीन पर पड़ेंगे, हमारे कॉलेज में पड़ेंगे, तो संभवतः हमारे बच्चों के रास्ते अच्छे खुलेंगे. तो बहुत धन्यवाद एक बार पुणे
थैंक यू,
WDC का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
थैंक यू, थैंक यू, थैंक यू.
थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर लोकेश. आई थिंक हमारा कोई भी कार्यक्रम लोकेश जी के बगैर अधूरा है, पूरा नहीं हो पाता. वो कॉलेज के साथ शुरू से जुड़े रहे हैं, छोटी छोटी डिटेल्स का ध्यान रखते हैं, और आई थिंक कॉलेज आज जहां तक पहुंचा है उसमें भी लोकेश जी ने बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से कंट्रीब्यूट किया है, और साथ में सबको प्रेरणा देते रहते हैं, चाहे वो स्टूडेंट्स हों, चाहे वो टीचर्स हों. एंड वी ऑलवेज लुक अप टू लोकेश जी. आई एम हैप्पी वो पूरा कार्यक्रम से जुड़े रहे, और आने वाले समय में भी जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि रश्मि जी से हम रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि पर्सनली आए और स्टूडेंट्स को एड्रेस करें. आई थिंक एक ऑफलाइन का अपना ही अलग एक आई वोंट से मजा होता है, बट एक अलग ही एक उसकी इफेक्ट रह जाता है हम सब पे. ऑनलाइन ये जरूरी था करना बिकॉज मैम वाज इन श्रीनगर, but next time I'm sure that we are going to get her over personally, and ma'am will have to take out time and be with us. Thank you. We'll proceed with the program.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Guneet, I would like to request Guneet to please float the link for the MCQs so that everyone can attempt them. And meanwhile, Rashmi ma'am, we have 2 students with case studies that we would like your opinion on. So may I invite them? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Rashmi ma'am?
Guneet, can you please check better what is going on?
Ma'am, I have shared the link to the MCQs.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, and the students will have only 10 minutes to fill it. And then the forms will be closed.
Okay, so beta, all the girls who are with us now, 50% you have to score in order to qualify for the e-certificates. This is a participative activity, and I'm sure you will all get 50% undoubtedly. So just start right away. And in the meantime, we have certain case study presentations, which I'm sure are going to take on now. Please start. Yes.
I would like to invite Afaf and Anagha for their case studies. Afaf, can you please begin?
Sure. Good afternoon once again. Hi, this is Afaf, and I'm going to present a case study which says an investigation on the effects of infertility on women's quality of life. Humans instinctively desire to have offspring. Infertility can cause painful emotional experiences throughout the life. This study aimed to investigate the impact of infertility on a woman's quality of life. Reproduction is known as an essential human desire, so that infertility may cause a great deal of psychosocial impairment. According to WHO, infertility is defined as a disease of reproductive system in which pregnancy does not occur after 1 year of continued intercourse. Infertility is considered as a global concern which affects many aspects of life in both genders. The rates even go up to 186 million people around the world. Infertility may work as a painful emotional experience. It can cause a lot of psychosocial issues, including stress, anxiety, depression, diminished self-esteem, declined sexual satisfaction, and reduced quality of life. The resulted psychosocial issues affect the female gender adversely more than her spouse, especially in societies where there are prejudices against women, such as an infertile woman may show a relatively high level of frustration and anger, which affect her relationship with family, friends, and even her spouse. Likewise, infertile women are more likely to develop mental illness, marital dissatisfaction, and impaired quality of compared to the individuals of fertile group. According to WHO, quality of life is a concept used to describe development, growth, and well-being, which reflects individuals' perceptions of their position in the community, as well as their goals, expectations, standards, and priorities. Attitude towards women's infertility are often influenced by ethnic and cultural groups. In the Eastern societies, the community mainly expects women to play a role as a mother. This will cause many psychosocial concerns if pregnancy does not occur for a reason. Therefore, more studies are required among Eastern societies to reveal the impact of social, cultural, and individual factors on an infertile woman's quality of life. Studying the quality of life among infertile women alarms the health authorities and subsequently led them spend a great deal of effort to help the infertile couples in one way or another. The results of the study showed an infertile woman experiences a relatively low quality of life by several dimensions. The research supports the finding of previous studies on this cause and effect relationship. The social health dimensions of life quality among infertile women, however, attained a higher score than that of the control group. This might have caused a large overall score of quality of life among infertile women. According to the studies, women generally experience only an average overall health related quality of life. We found infertile women to have a higher social health score compared to the control group. A woman with a relatively low educational level played the role of a housewife while she did not own a house. She enjoyed a greater social health. This might be due to the fact that an infertile woman receives more social support due to different reasons, such as personal or familial relationships. In fact, an excellent social support can improve the physical and mental health. Thus, it provides a relatively high social well-being and quality of life. The educational levels of couples and the occupational status of women predicted the quality of life. Duration of marriage can also affect the various dimensions of quality of life. Based on the findings, a woman experiences a relatively high physical, mental, and environmental quality of life within the first 10 years of marriage. According to the present studies, having underlying illness can affect the various dimensions of life quality. As such, a woman with no underlying illness has a better physical, mental, and environmental health scores compared to an ill woman. So, I would like to conclude mental, physical, and environmental health components of quality of life may be adversely affected among the infertile women, although the social health subscale may not. Other modalities such as educational attainment, employment, house ownership, and major illness also influence the quality of life. Given the fact that the quality of life among women of reproductive age affects the long-term health of each family member, health policymakers, family counselors, and psychologists are required to pay special attention to physical, mental, and environmental health dimensions of a woman's life, which adversely affects her quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Afa, for bringing about this in this on bringing it to the floor. Rashmi ma'am, can you please can you hear me? Can somebody please check if she's having a technical issue?
Kushi, I guess she has left the meeting.
Just let me send her a message if she can, because in the meanwhile, we can start the other presentation, the case study. I'll just message to her.
Anaga, then can you please share your case study with us?
Good afternoon, all of you. Today, I'll be presenting my case study on the topic, what is important today, education of women or the dress code. I'm a student of Mata Sundari College and a member of WDC. So today I am going to explain to you what I will be addressing. So Firstly, the different issues that ranged from women clothing in India, which had an initial start from wearing a jeans and now to a headscarf. The issue started in Udupi on December 2021, where 6 Muslim students of junior college were denied wearing a hijab to their classes because it was a violation of college uniform policy. The
Anagha, can
issue
you just
went
stop
into
for a
radical
minute?
protest.
Anagha,
Yeah.
1 minute, beta. Sorry to interfere. Sorry. Radhika, are you there with us? Radhika Menon, are you there with us?
I am here.
Savita, are you there? Yeah,
Yes, I am
Radhika,
here.
I would request you to respond to Anagha's presentation and Afaf's, because I think Rashmi ma'am had to leave.
Maybe we can
please,
ask.
Radhika.
I would request Dr. Savita to take this task on. Yeah.
I will also tell Savita to respond to one of them, and you can respond to the other one. Let Savita respond to one. You can also respond to the other. सविता आप जुड़े हुए हैं, तो आप किस पे आप रिस्पॉन्ड करना चाहेंगे सविता? Savita, can you hear me? Radhika, आप प्लीज सुन के रिस्पॉन्ड कर लेना. I'm not able to see Savita around. I don't know what is the problem. Okay, Radhika, would it be feasible? Okay, Anaga, I'm sorry, beta. I'm truly sorry for interrupting. You carry on and proceed. Yeah.
So I'd start from the beginning. So
Yes.
good afternoon all. My name is Anakha, and I'd be presenting my case study on the topic what is important today, education of women or dress code. First of all, I would like to address the subject of the following case study that underlies different issues raised from the women clothing in India, which had an initial start from wearing a jeans and now to a headscarf. The issue started in Udupi on December 2021, where 6 Muslim students of junior college were denied wearing a hijab to their classes because it was a violation of college uniform policy. The issue went into radical protest, and the different attempts to solve the issue have been taken place, and yet no conclusion is to be provided here. In the same sense, I would like to convey another similar issue that took place in Iran, where wearing a headscarf is mandatory policy, which changed the life of women when a 22-year-old woman was arrested and beaten to death for wearing a headscarf too loosely. The commonality between the two global cases that have took place was women was always a subject and an instrument of control, and traditionally women are under the patriarchal society where the decision of women are held under the surveillance of the society. Despite regional, national, racial and ethnic variation, it is women who suffers ultimately because the choice of their will is not taken by them, even in the private and public space. People are provided with an educational institution where they grow themselves through teaching and learning, and the main motive of providing education is for gaining and developing knowledge, which provides people with the ability to embrace all aspects and obtain the mental strength to understand the society better. Knowledge gives an intellectual mind to reflect the idea that dress code and education are equally important, and it must be also noted that taking away the desire of a person doesn't guarantee the right kind of education for the future. The state is an institution that has responsibilities to check the problems of a community, whether it is religion, a caste, class, sex, or even a gender. Being a protective institution, it must also ensure that there is harmony among the people rather than bringing a hold on one's belief. Why is it always women who are under the surveillance of the society, and women are not granted their choice of inclusivity? Women must not be given a choice to choose one above the another. Education must be provided regardless of dress code. When an educational institution take charge with the strict dress code, one must also address that it also teaches the youngsters to oppress and counter the other. Unity and discipline can be only attained when one moves beyond simplistic virtue signaling on the issue of hijab and analyzing the issue without a bias. With an open-end discussion, I would like to put forth what we think about India as a secular nation that has undergone such a tremendous pressure of dress code over education, or it can be vice versa. Isn't it possible to strike a neutral balance between the two? Thank you.
Maybe I'll take this opportunity to discuss, just make a few remarks about what you've presented, Anagha. I thought it was really interesting that you managed to bring in and take up a topic which is of such contemporary relevance, that the state, society, judiciary, various parts of the state have been engaged with this. So it is indeed something that young women must reflect and consider upon. And I think what you've done is you've tried to locate it within the larger question of patriarchy, how this is positioned as well. I mean, I thought it was interesting that you could bring in the element of the Iranian women's hijab case with reference to this, because it does bring forth the question of where is the woman's choice in this entire discourse. When the state starts dictating what the woman must wear, so it's not just the society which is dictating, but the state is also dictating what rights a woman has with reference to the definition of her attire. So that was very interesting, Anagha, and I think a lot of discussion, and the fact that you did bring it in alongside that of educational opportunities is important, because I think today the entire discussion was about how do we utilize education, or how does rather than utilize, but how does education become a process of the leadership building. That was very interesting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. As for the earlier presentation, Madhuri, if you could comment.
No, I in fact would love to do so, but I had to leave in the middle. Otherwise, I would have done it. I would have loved to do it. Afaf has been my student, and she is an exemplary student all along, as we have known. I had to leave in the middle, so I couldn't hear all of it, just the beginning part. If somebody has heard it, would like to comment, I would be happy. Because we have admission work also in the middle, I had to leave for a little while. Anyway, where is Afaf? Afaf, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. You know what, Afaf, we will do that in class. I don't teach you this year. Last year I taught you. But however, I think we'll have a personal sitting tomorrow itself. And I would love to respond to it. I will fix up some time with you tomorrow. And I will not let it go unnoticed. I'm always, in favor of your activities and participation, as you can see. As for Anagha, I just want to add, I have my article in the Pioneer, From the Hijab to the Kitab, that was published in the Pioneer in March, I think 5th of March. So I think you can also go through that. Perhaps it may just be giving you, it'll give you another perspective to what you just said. I'm quite sure about that. Okay, now the MCQs, Guneet, Radhika, please convey what you have to, it'll be nice.
I hope all the students have participated in the multiple choice question. We'll just get back to you about the responses there. So can we just have those of you who've got the scores, how many of you have submitted? Maybe you can raise your hands. If you can if you can raise your hands. Okay, I see 2 hands there, 3, yeah. Okay. Slowly the hands are getting raised. Is that all? Okay, so we have, I'll share with you my screen. Is Guneet here? Guneet?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, would you like to share your screen and show them?
Ma'am, I cannot share my screen as I have connected from my phone and not laptop. It got disconnected.
Okay, okay, all right, that's okay. So I'll share my screen and then you can have a look at the nature of responses that have come. Not many students have attempted it. That's a bit sad because the certificates are linked with the participation in the multiple choice questions. So let's see how many of you've got. We have about 14 to 18 is the average. We have got 11 responses now. I mean, I think people are still putting in the response, is it? Are you all still attempting it?
No, ma'am, the time limit was only 10 minutes.
Okay.
But let us be a little more flexible. If they need 5 minutes, let's give them 5 minutes, because some more maybe attempting at the moment.
Okay,
so let's
ma'am.
just give them 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, Radhika, you want to say something?
I think they can just
about these
attempt.
MCQs. About the MCQs, you want to say something?
See, multiple choice questions. I think what is really nice is the way students have been able to think through various, points, debate about it, think of the cases, also made presentations with much thought. The idea was that, if all the students here could participate in some way. So the multiple choice questions is just, it's an overview of the gender terrain and trying to see, what kind of awareness of concepts or some seminal writings that you may have. In case it doesn't matter if you get it wrong, the idea is to get to know at least the terrain that is existing. So even if you go wrong, take 5 minutes and just just try to attempt the questions. Your participation is, of course, linked to your participation in the workshop is being seen with reference to the participation in the multiple choice questions. So please do participate, please do respond to it. And then what we can do is once, if no more responses are coming in, then we can just share the results.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, those who have already done the MCQs test, so can we leave the meeting or like we need to stay here?
You've got the response. You've got the number of correct responses. You've got your marks.
It was 18 out of 20.
Okay,
so.
Great. Great. So people have got the responses. So you can just keep attempting and then you can leave, I guess.
We can leave, right?
Yeah.
And Anushka, I would rather that just we are about to wind up in 2 to 3 minutes. So Beta, please hang on for 2 to 3 minutes. We are about to wind up in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
Sure, no problem.
I think 5 minute हो गए गुनीत या अभी रुकना है?
Ma'am, I guess that's it.
हो गए 5 मिनट?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. अब राधिका बताएंगी और गुनीत को कुछ कहना तो जरूर बताएं. उसके बाद मैंने सविता मैम को फोन किया है about the vote of thanks. Perhaps मुझे दिख नहीं रहे, I don't know, some issue may be there. So इसके बाद I would like to formally thank everyone. If Radhika can do it, it would be lovely. If Jaspal is here, Jaspal can do it. If any of the other WDC faculties here, anybody can do it. So, I leave that to you. So yes, please, Radhika, batao MCQs ke bare mein. The girls are waiting here.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? Just a second. Let me just share the screen so that you get an idea of the responses.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Radhika, ma'am, can you please share your screen?
Are you able to see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Okay, just a second. Okay, so let's just go question by question. Okay, what's the guess here?
Gender parity.
Okay, that's right. Gender is a and maybe students
Social
can just
construct.
quickly respond back.
Construct.
So social construct. Gender roles are
Learned behaviors.
Learned behavior.
okay. The term dash refers to biological difference.
And gender.
Sex and gender.
Okay, so is it A, B, C, or D?
B.
Okay. A stereotype is
C.
A belief assigned to an entire group.
okay. A feminist leadership interested in transformational leadership would identify which of the following as the best form of leadership?
A leader who's far and encourages collective decision.
Okay, so that we have had a long discussion on this today. The anti-ARAC and Chipko movement are examples of women exhibiting leadership and mobilizing on issues closest to them. True or false?
True.
Why?
Because we have seen those movements, like how movements were entirely corrected and saved the trees for the Chipko movement. As far as I know, I really don't have like much information about anti-ARAC, but I just made a fair guess with the Chipko movement, so I went with the true.
Okay. In US, women got voting rights in
1920.
1920.
okay. So that's not very far, just early part of the 20th century. Which of the following conferences identified women having that women have a vital role in environment management? So I guess this is one. Yeah. So Beijing Conference. So I think this is the main proposals of the conferences are probably unfamiliar. So this is something that we could definitely take up in some subsequent sessions. What are the dimensions taken to measure the gender inequality index?
D. Reproductive health, empowerment, and labor market.
Okay. So what do you mean by comparable worth discrimination?
Sex segregation in jobs and less pay for women's work.
Okay. The Political Economy of Women's Liberation was written by
Margaret Penston.
Okay. So what makes you familiar with this work?
I read this with my friend somewhere, so I remember this.
Okay. In which year was the Amendment to a Succession Act in India made to ensure that a daughter shall have the same rights in the ancestral property of the Hindu undivided family as a son?
2005.
And which act was this?
Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Family Law Act.
Okay. Any guesses about Neha Narkhede? Which organization does she head? Or is she associated with? She's a board member there.
Ma'am, Confluent. Ma'am, Confluent.
Okay. And who acted as the chairperson of the drafting committee of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights?
I did B.R. Ambedkar and it was wrong. So I don't know.
Any other guesses?
Ma'am, it was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay, who was she?
Ma'am, I honestly don't know who she was, but in our subject of HR, we were discussing about human rights, and her name was mentioned during one of our lectures. So I knew the answer there.
Okay, so that means this is something that you can look up on who she was.
Yes,
The convention on the elimination, CEDAW, huh? The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women was passed in which year? Guesses? (1979). And what was conducted during 19th June to between 19th June and 2nd July in 1975 in Mexico? Any guesses?
First World Conference
Let's call World Conference on Women.
on
Right?
Women.
Yeah. Okay. So any guesses on this? The 12 people have walked on the moon till now. 12 astronauts have been to the moon. And how many of them were women?
None.
No
It
women.
was an amazing fact in the notebook of classmates. So I read this.
Okay. So how many women were there?
0. 12 men were there only.
Okay, so all the 12 of them happen to be men, and this is interesting because a lot of women have been to space. In fact, right up in the early 1960s, we've had a woman cosmonaut in space. But even so, all the people who managed to walk on the moon happen to be men, and women haven't had quite a chance to reach there as yet. But women can certainly aspire for the moon and work towards grabbing it. The following person is a Marxist intellectual, a famous social feminist, and she put forth this idea of the masculinity of war. So, and she says all war is male. Any guesses?
Rosa Luxemburg.
Okay, and who was she?
She was a Marxist feminist, ma'am.
Okay, that's there in the question itself. Okay, we can read up a lot more, a bit more on her work. She was also a fine economist and has a very interesting history of the kind of mobilizations, the writings that she has done, and the polemics that she has been involved in shaping the early 20th century. So, okay, this is the easiest. Now tell me, on which date is Women's Day celebrated?
8th March.
8th March.
I hope all of you got that right. Okay, so there are 16 responses. So let's see. So let's see so let's see who's got it all right. I'll just announce it. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'll just announce who's got the maximum numbers correct. So how many of you got 20 out of 20? But 19? 18? I thought so.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so great. These are questions to just flag off various concepts and various ideas. Also texts that one can look at, concepts that you can engage with. And I hope you can read about them in greater detail later on, and also we can take them up during discussions. Okay, Madhuri, may I request you to?
Yeah, I think we can exit that from the screen so that we can just thank everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, I request all of you to get together for Radhika, where are you?
I'm trying to arrive by closing the screen. Just a second.
Sorry. We'll get together for a formal photo of the WDC team who are still hung on. Thank you. We started with a number which was close to 100 and we are down to 25. but nevertheless, it is all right. I think 25 is also a fairly encouraging number. So can we get together for a formal photo, please? And who's doing that before I actually give the vote of thanks? Afaf, Anaga, who is going to do the photograph bit?
I would
To get
like
everybody into
to switch on your
everybody
camera.
into the picture. Yeah, sab log apna camera on kar do.
I must also give, I must definitely mention the role of Guneet in putting together the multiple choice questions. She's done a great job of trying to gather areas, put together questions from various areas. Great job done, Guneet.
Thank you, ma'am.
कैमरा सबके ऑन हो गई तो हम फोटो ले सकते हैं क्या? आई डोंट थिंक सबने अपने कैमरास ऑन किए हैं किसी वजह से. अनघा, आप बेटा खुशी कहाँ पे है? बाकी कहाँ है? अनुष्का, खुशी, तृप्ति, अफाफ यू हियर. बाकी कहाँ है बेटा?
Ma'am, my camera is on.
Okay, great.
His camera is also on.
चलो जल्दी करो.
Yes, ma'am,
Who's going to take
Anushka
the
as
pic?
well.
Who's taking the pic? Hurry up. Over. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, I'd like to thank each of you. I was calling upon Savita, but I don't know, she has left the meeting, maybe some emergency. I don't know. So I would like to thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart. First and foremost, the WDC team, which comprises of the faculty as well as the students. I think nothing is possible without the cooperation of both the faculty as well as the students. Radhika has been into the MCQ segments. Thank you, Radhika. You have worked hard with it. Thank you, Shubneet, for taking care of the technical segment. Thank you also to Savita, who actually I think is writing the report along with Shubneet. Although I don't know why I don't know, some problem must be there. Generally, she is there till the end of the session. Always she's there. And also the other faculty members, some couldn't make it, but doesn't matter, maybe another time. And all the students, I would like to thank each of you, the core committee members, beginning with Afaf, Guneet, Khushi, Tripti, Anagha, Jasleen, and Akshita. I'm sorry, Akshita, I missed out your name the other day. I feel guilty about it. You'll have to pardon me. And I'll make it up to you some other day with a good treat.
No,
okay, that's on me. Okay, beta. And I'm forgetting the names now. There are some others. Can you remind me who are the others, beta? Can you tell me?
Tanushri.
Tanushri.
Nancy.
Tanushri and Nancy, Tanushri, Nancy,
Bhavya.
all I
Jasleen, Bhavya.
Yes, Bhavleen, Bhavya, I think all put in their best foot forward. And I feel happy, I feel proud that these are my students. मैं गर्व के साथ कहती हूँ कि ये मेरे ही अपने बच्चे हैं जिन्होंने मेहनत की. मुझे अच्छा लगा, ये अनुभव भी अच्छा था मेरे लिए, क्योंकि मुझे पहले तो थोड़ा सा डर लग रहा था, but I'm happy, I'm confident now. I think you can pull through any program. You're smart, confident young girls. So that I'm happy. And that's all I want to say. The only thing I have missed on is the principal ma'am's presence. She's generally there for all the programs. I missed her. And last but not the least, no program is possible without Sangeeta's help. Sangeeta from computer science. She's always such a blessing, she always connects and does things so immaculately. Sangeeta, are you here?
She must be in the admissions.
Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm thankful, I'm grateful to Sangeeta. I'm also happy that Dr. Lukesh was there right through the program, and he was also able to share his views on the program. So thank you once again. If I have missed out anybody, my fault. If I'm going to, miss out on anybody, then you please mention it now, or otherwise we can wind up the program. I think the result, Radhika is trying to share something with us.
Yeah.
The statistics.
Yeah, the results are on the in the chat box. You can just look at your scores. So
और जाने से पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी, जो भी रजिस्ट्रेशंस हुए, जो भी हमने ये डेटा, सब एक रिकॉर्ड रखना है बेटा। ऐसा नहीं है कि प्रोग्राम खत्म हुआ और सब कुछ गायब हो गया। या आप लोगों से मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ, फॉर्मली जितने भी रजिस्ट्रेशन हुए उसका रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए, जिन बच्चों को सर्टिफिकेट्स हमने देने हैं उसका रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए। ये सारी छोटी छोटी बातें हैं, जब हम रिपोर्ट लिखते हैं तो हमारे लिए मुश्किल होता है फिर। तो आप सब लोग इन चीजों को इकट्ठा करके इनको रिकॉर्ड में रखना जरूरी है। ओके, जो फोटोग्राफ्स थे, जो यूट्यूब का जो जो चैनल है, जो लिंक हमने शेयर किया उन्होंने, एवरीथिंग, एवरी माइन्यूट डिटेल। ओके राधिका, is there anything that I have missed out? You can share with me then.
Thank you, Madhuri, for for such
Thanks a lot.
Such a pleasant facilitation of this very long session, but very engaging session.
Thank you to all of us.
Excuse me,
Thank you
ma'am.
to all of us. Yes, Peter.
Ma'am, should I share the feedback form in the group and in the chat box?
I think let's take a collective decision on this. If she shares the feedback form in the chat box and the where are you saying? And
Ma'am, WhatsApp
group.
Yes, Peter.
WhatsApp group, ma'am.
I think one should do that. I think it's okay because some
precisely.
people have left in the middle. Those students who have
Yeah.
completed the MCQs will of course get the certificate, but we can certainly take the feedback from everybody who has been in and out of the workshop.
Yeah, please do so. You can do so. Do that so that I mean, they don't feel left out, those who had to leave or anything. Okay, anything else, Peter? Or shall we just call it a day then? It's been a long day. And our admissions also started at 9 or 10 a.m. So we've been with admissions and then straight into this program. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Looking forward to another good program in the near future. Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you,
ma'am.
Radhika. Thank you
Thank you,
all.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
It would be great if somebody could take the screenshot of the results that Radhika ma'am has shared.
I have taken.
I would request all the participants to leave. That is all. Chalo.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I think Guneet's recording should be stopped now. And the
I
live
know.
also.
I'll stop I'll end the meeting.